Well, hello and welcome to our monthly author showcase. I am so glad you are here. My name is Dr. Angela Loria. I am the CEO and founder of the Author Incubator. And today, our author success coach, Ramses, and I are thrilled to introduce you to 30 authors, our biggest launch ever, and their life changing messages. They have just released brand new books and audiobooks, and we're so excited to share them with you today. I know I've said I'm excited a couple times, but we have never had this many amazing, high quality books um, available to the public on one day. And I'm thrilled to be able to share that with you because I know now more than ever we are in desperate need of healing and transformation, and really in need of something to celebrate. And what we're celebrating here is what is possible. What is possible when you set a goal, when you have a deadline, when you have a team to support you, when you hold yourself accountable to your own success, even when there's a pandemic, even when the world is in upheaval. This today is about what's possible. So these authors are here to show you what could be possible for you too. And they're also going to share the messages in their books as you are listening to them. What I want you to do is think of one person in your life who would benefit from these books. Many of the authors that you will hear from today, their books are available at no charge. And I would love for you to share each book with at least one person. We may not be able to help everyone, but we can share these messages with the people in our lives who need them most. So you will hear lots of different topics, lots of different books. Some of them will resonate with you. Please make sure you download those immediately. They will be available for free if you are listening soon after this is released. For a very limited amount of time, we make many of our books available for free. If a book doesn't resonate with you, I am sure you know someone who it will help. That is when you share it. Now, in addition to learning about these books and the problems their authors solve with their books, we're also going to talk about what it took for them to get their book done. We'll talk about accountability. We will talk about processes, systems, and deadlines. And we will talk about community. Those, I believe, are the three keys: accountability, a system that works, and a community that supports you. Those are our keys to success for our authors. And I think that's what's missing. You know, the New York Times says 91% of Americans want to write a book, and yet very few succeed at getting it done. I believe that's because they are missing one or more of those three things: accountability, a system that works, and a community. So if you already know which of those you're missing, now is the time to see how those gaps get filled and how these authors filled those gaps. I think it's more important than ever, and I know these authors will agree with me, that we do everything possible to improve the well-being of everyone on the planet, to contribute at our maximum potential. And I hope you'll take this opportunity to really connect with what that would feel like for you. If you were to push yourself harder and go deeper, how would you have to change? That is the journey our authors are on and why we call it the author incubator and not just the book incubator, because you have to change and evolve in order to really make a difference at the next level. You'll meet today a lot of authors who have been on this journey for 1, 2, even 3 years with us. And the first of those authors is a two-time author. Her second book is called The Team Whisperer: Successfully Lead a Cross-Generation Race and Gender Team. Elle Granielle. Elle, hello, lovely to see you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here with my second book. And
Yay. So this book is actually quite a departure. I always talk about that our books change people's lives, their bodies, and their businesses. You started off with a very personal journey, and this is really taking it to a totally different place. So how did you come up with this book idea? Why did you want to write this book?
I believe in my heart that I'm here to help people be better communicators, because so much of the angst that happens in interpersonal communications is just a misunderstanding. And so the best place for that to start with is in the workplace. And it's so challenging for managers now because they have generations, right? So you could have people in their 70s to their 20s, all in your department, and then different races and different, nationalities, and just so many things, the Me Too movement. There's just so much to be aware of as a leader right now that I wanted to pull it all together into one book with, looking at each aspect of communication so that managers can get a grip on what may have been going wrong and then shift it with some easy steps, so that because when communication's better, people want to show up for work, and more importantly, people stay at work. They don't go looking for employment elsewhere. So that's why.
So, when you came up with this book idea, what was your larger goal? How does this fit into your business, the services you offer? Where does this fit into your master plan?
I've had my business True Speak for a long time, and the focus is on interpersonal communication. And so what I'm working on now through this book is a certification program, the Team Whisperer certification. And so that way, not only do you get the book and read the book, but you actually apply the knowledge so that it does not become what I like the term shelf help. It's my desire that the book is not just read, but that it's put into process and activation. And that's what I'm looking forward to, is the Team Whisperer certification.
I love that. That is very exciting. That is an evolution of True Speak. So I love seeing how things go to the next level. You've been hanging around writing books with us for almost a year and a half now. What are some of your experiences with the Author Incubator? How has that influenced your business or even this new certification?
So I've always been a writer. I love writing. However, taking that step from being a writer to being a successful published author is a huge leap that was possible with you all because, like you mentioned, deadlines and your great staff, your coaches. You have so much accountability and support. So it's not just like you have to do these things. You get the support that you need to get them done. So there's a difference between there's things that you have to do and things that you're looking forward to getting done. So it's an easy process from start to finish because of the support and the process.
Anyone on the team that was especially helpful to you that we should shout out today?
Oh, okay. So my content editor, Natasha, wow, she's an excellent communicator for starters. And she really brought out the content in my book. So it was very important that she helped me understand that sometimes people don't know what I'm talking about, even though I claim to be an amazing communicator. So in other words, processes. So I would use terminology and she would say, what does this mean? So,
Mm.
so the book is really deep in content. Thanks to Natasha.
I love that. Great shout out. Well, I'm so excited about book number 2 and this certification that you're doing. Love being a part of your journey and congratulations. Let's show people your book if you have it.
Yes.
There it is, the Team Whisperer. Although I don't know who's wearing suits anymore. We're all maybe suits on top. Who knows what they're wearing on the bottom? Sweatpants like the rest of us.
Exactly. It's so nice to be able to hold this. So it's a lovely gift. Thank you.
You are welcome. You can get the Team Whisperer on Amazon right now at no cost if you act quickly. So congratulations again, Elle Grenier.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Aloha.
Our next author is also on book number 2. And what I like about this journey, just for you to really see this, is sometimes a book will be a logical next step, and sometimes it'll be a complete pivot. And there's no right or wrong. That's one of the great things about being an author is we get so many book ideas. In fact, when you start writing a book, you get about 100 book ideas that flood you. We can only do one at a time, but you can write a whole series, which the next book has that sort of series feel, or you can pivot to something totally different. So the next author is Damiana Nador. Her book is Help, I Need a Break from Motherhood, the Stay-at-Home Mom's Guide to a Balanced Life. Damiana, congratulations.
Thank you.
So I know your first book was Help, My Husband is Hardly Home. You are, if Elle is the Team Whisperer, you're the Mom Whisperer, really helping moms. What is Help, I Need a Break from Motherhood about, and should we all just put our children in the closet?
It's really a book that it's a survival guide to moms, at-home moms, but moms everywhere. When, you're at that point where you're just burnt out, when you can't take anymore, when you just want to scream and just lose it because you just had enough. You just can't bear the weight of motherhood any longer. And it's really like just a beautiful resource with so much rich information in there that's just going to help transform and help you really feel like you have a balanced life.
Do you think that's possible in this, homeschooling era where things seem to be changing so quickly and life is so different? Is it possible to have balance? Is that too big of a dream? And what are some of the secrets to making it happen?
Definitely, it is doable. You can 100% create life balance. That is what I teach other moms. That's what I help my clients do. It's a delicate balance, and as long as you have the right systems in place and using specific modalities that I teach in my book, it is so much easier to create the life that you envision and become the mother that you know that you're capable of being.
Yes, I might need some of those systems. I think, there's so many new pressures on moms that like being a mom was always a hard job. And now it's like times a kabillion. Whether it's trying to convince your kid to wear a mask, which is the argument I've been having, or, having to balance, your regular motherhood duties with having kids at home now. So many new challenges. I don't think there's been a better time for a book like Help, I Need a Break from Motherhood. I think all moms are really feeling it. Why do you think this is your mission? Why are you passionate about this? I know you have a background as a professional athlete. You got a couple adorable babies, but why this? Why is this your assigned mission?
Yeah, this is my mission for sure, 100%, because of my experiences that I have lived through being a professional athlete to now being married to a professional athlete to having two young kids. I have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old at home with me full time. I don't have like a live in nanny or like it's a one woman show type of thing. And I've just pulled from all of my different experiences and life lessons. And it's just like deep wisdom seated within me that it just appears that it's just so easy and natural to me, which is natural. It's not easy per se, it just works naturally. And I've realized that that's my gift
Mm.
is being able to balance yourself, your family, being that rock that really holds your family together and flip it from like this victim, like modern motherhood where like everything is just go, 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 you just have everything out of control to like an empowered experience where you really can stand in your power and harness that and be able to find the gifts in motherhood.
I love that. It's beautiful. Second book with the author incubator, was it easier or harder this time?
It was, I want to say it was easier, even though it was still harder. So the first book, I was pregnant and my husband was away for like 6 months. And so that was a whole thing with my toddler. And then this time it was almost easier because I knew the process, I knew what to expect. But of course, stuff is going to come up because
Well, you had an international move in the middle of writing this book.
oh yeah, I did. See, I forgot that already because it's
Oh
like
my God. I remember panic texting you and I was like, are you going to finish this book? Because I'm following you on Instagram and I don't know how you're going to write a book. And you're like, I got it.
Yeah, I guess looking back, I'm like, it wasn't that hard. But now that I remember, like, yes, we did have an international move with the two littles and still managed to get it done.
In the pandemic.
How did I get it done? Because of the amazing support system here. Like, I know myself, I'm good on the deadline. Like, as a professional athlete, like, retired now, but like, that's how I thrive. Like, fourth quarter, crunch time, give me the ball. I'm going to make the shot, right? And win the game. So I was never an option to not finish the book, but where I leaned in was on my teammates. So Angela, like you personally reaching out to me was a major thing too. Mila stalking my Instagram, social medias. How's the move? And then also Natasha, my editor, was really patient and understanding, yet firm and like hard, like when she needed to be. Cause like also we got that relationship where she knows like, okay, if you tell me this, probably this is gonna happen, but like we're gonna get it. So
yeah, I think that's so important because people beat themselves up. Like there are people out there, moms like you with 2 little kids and a busy life, and they're beating themselves up for not getting their book done, or whatever the goal is, getting their website done, launching their business, whatever the thing is. And when we look at someone like you, who's so like beautiful and successful and like, oh, motherhood can be easy. Look at the cute pictures of my children. There's a saying in AA, like, don't judge your insides by other people's outsides, right? And what is different is not that you're a superwoman, although sure, you're a superwoman, but what's different very often is what we don't see on the surface, the help that people had, whether it's your family or a team like this one, having the systems in place, having the accountability, not hiding from that, because sometimes we have the support, but we put our head in the sand because it feels hard, but leaning into that support. So if you're here wishing your book was done or your album was recorded or whatever that goal is, It's not that these authors like Damiana have something you don't have, inside that. It's not like Damiana's a better writer or a better, like, whatever. It's really being able to make that commitment and then lean into the support. So, congratulations on getting this book done through all of that. It's been such a fun journey to watch, and I am so excited. Do you have this book with you?
Yes, I do.
Let's show people. Here it is, book number 2, Help, I Need a Break from Motherhood, the stay-at-home mom's guide to a balanced life. If you're a mom, you gotta follow Damiana. Check her out on all the socials. Get this book. It's free now. It is a resource you will be so glad you invested your time in reading. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So we have talked about business, we've talked about motherhood, and now we're going to talk about my favorite topic, money. The next author is the author of Achieve Financial Freedom, The Roadmap to Financial Success, Maria Ellis. Maria, hello.
Hello, Angela. How are you?
Good. There's your beautiful book right there, Achieve Financial Freedom. Everybody needs this book because everyone wants financial freedom. But who is this book for? What's it about?
Well, this book is for everybody really, but specifically my ideal reader is a woman between 25 and 45 years old who's, somebody who's starting a career or somebody who is already working, but there seems to be like there's having a lot of pressure, lots of work, but the money tends to disappear. So, it's like there are too many days in a month and not enough money kind of thing. So my goal really is to be able to provide you with a financial roadmap, with a financial that is going to help you achieve financial success.
And let's talk a little bit about your background and your business. What makes you qualified to be the author of this book?
Yes, absolutely. I have been in banking for about 25 years. And in that process, I have worked with the large corporations and medium-sized companies. I've also counseled executives in terms of investments. And I currently have a real estate business as well as an investment advisory. So my, goal in life is to be able to help people create the dream life and be able to achieve that. That gives me lots of pleasure.
Do you think it's easier if you start younger? You mentioned this guide is sort of for millennials, people in their 20s maybe. Why start there?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're young, you really don't think that much about, 40 years down the road when you're thinking about retirement. But, we know that the best way to achieve financial freedom is to start now, actually to start yesterday. You need to start managing your money. You need to start paying off if you're a recent graduate, for instance, to start paying off your school loans. Sometimes when I was a younger person, just graduated from college, had student loans, and I asked for advice, and they said, well, what you need to do is to start saving, but really what you needed to do first is to start paying off the debt, because the debt was, the interest rates were high versus the small amount of interest that you earn in the bank. So it's just learning about, basic investment and financial principles are just so important for you to achieve financial freedom.
I love that. Such a great example. This is your first book, right?
This is my first book, and I already have other books in mind. So we're
I always say books are like tattoos. You can't just have one.
Yes, indeed.
Tell us about your experience with the Author Incubator. What were some highlights for you? What do you think helped you to get your book done?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit more about my experience in general, dicing people, and then I'll get to the second question that you're asking. One of the reasons why I'm very passionate about this is because life changes for people as we grow older, and our needs change and our dreams change. So, for instance, somebody who is in the mid 30s might want to start saving money to buy a home, as an example. Somebody who is in the mid 40s need to start worrying about, oh, how am I going to pay for my children's education, right? Somebody who is in the mid 50s is like, oh my God, 10 more years and I'm going to retire. How am I going to live? How much money I'm going to have? Will I be able to have the same lifestyle? And then, as you grow older, you're worried about, well, estate planning. How are you going to, to whom are you going to leave all your assets that you have accumulated over time? And if you don't have a estate plan or a will or a trust, then you may just not be able to accomplish your goals. So all of this really, all of these reasons, because for instance, to give you another example, I had a client who had remarried and he didn't change his trust in terms of the beneficiary. And so when he passed on, the first wife, who he hated, received the benefits of the insurance policy because he has totally forgotten about making the change. Something that is so simple, but yet if you don't review your financial plan every year, then you don't have that in mind.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's another example of, the importance of doing financial plan. So that's really deep in my heart. And I have been thinking about doing this for a while. But then when I saw your promotion about the author incubator, I knew that I needed your assistance in terms of creating that accountability, having the systems in place, and the community that is going to enable all of us to be successful. And so I'd like to say thank you for your team. I think all your team members are great, but a special person in my heart is Corey. He has been exceptional. So thank you for that, Corey Hutt.
Awesome. Nice shout out to Corey. He's an amazing editor. Maria Ellis's book is Achieve Financial Freedom, the roadmap to financial success. This roadmap is yours for the low, low price of free, but only if you get it right now. So please head over to Amazon and get a copy of Maria's book.
And may I add just a quick notice? I have the book now is online through if you Google mastermind.com and Google Achieve Financial Freedom, then you'll be able to have also your own personalized financial plan on a complimentary basis. That's going to be good through Christmas. So
Great.
I welcome everybody to download the book and to actually start implementing and creating a financial plan.
So powerful. Congratulations again, Maria.
Thank
Our
you.
next author is the author of I Want to Learn Energy Healing, the guidebook for teaching others to heal and discovering the new chakra rays. I know you will be excited to meet Min Chow Craig. Hi, Min Chow, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hi, Angela.
We all want to know. We all want to know about the new chakra rays. Tell us about I Want to Learn Energy Healing. What is this book about?
Yeah, for years I helped so many people to get better for their health. And because I did massage therapy, I do shiatsu massage. I also personal trainer. And so then, I received a message to finally I acknowledge my gift, and I was told I need to teach students. So that's why I took the practical Reiki class, which combines Usui Reiki and Kundalini. And after that, I received a message through a medium psychic friend of mine from Archangel Metatron. To write the new chakra rays, and because he said the old one gonna be faded away and we need the new one.
Wow.
And well, it took me a while because I didn't know why me, but so finally everywhere I went, I get the message from people say you need to get back to the book. Even after I won the car accident back in 2016, and it's really strange. And I put them together, and somehow travel back and forth between Ohio and Illinois, I lost all my materials. Yeah, it wasn't a joke. So I
Wow.
got discouraged, so I put back, and so we're due the pandemic. I came from Ohio to Illinois, and I get to know the author incubator a year before that. But I couldn't do it, and then when I came to Illinois, it was in June when I saw the author incubator. I thought, you know what, maybe this is the time, you know. So then I joined you, and so that's what I put the book together about new chakra rays, about the stories that I have been doing, healing through my work, and on the Ascended Master and, Archangel together in the book, uh, to help other people to learn how to heal so they can heal others. That's the
So
book.
powerful.
Yeah.
What was your biggest challenge in getting your book done?
the biggest the biggest challenge was because you're not sure how people react. People have the same seven chakra for years. Almost at now we had a new seven one, and the plus the eighth chakra that we never had before. So I kind of worry, but you know what, a lot of challenge I had to go through, and I went through so many obstacles. I hurt myself the first 2 weeks I get into the company. I pulled the bag and right through my two eyes. And 3 weeks later, I went to the ER, and they found both had abrasions.
Wow.
They gave me antibiotic and helped a little bit, but then a week after that, I fell and hurt myself. I was on the knee scooter for a week or so. But and all the challenge, I actually realized it's part of my path. So just pull yourself together, and that book is important because I receive the message and I feel that I need to fulfill this, and because of that, regardless what happened, I just pull myself together and hear the book.
Yeah. What was it about our either process or program or team member? What was the biggest area of our program that helped you get through the injuries and the self-doubt and all of that?
Well, I tell you, I didn't want to forget about Andrew Smith. Okay, he no longer here, but I felt that God, kept him here just enough to help me with the topic, exactly what I wanted. And then Madeline come along. She absolutely got sent.
Awesome.
I felt like one of the authors said earlier, I feel like she's my private editor. She's so helpful, and regardless when and where and what time, and she will get back with me, and no question asked, and it's so wonderful. And the whole team really helped me through this. And even when I hurt myself, I couldn't function. I think the third time I went to ER for my back spasm, and she always, build me up and give me, encouragement. You can do this, and I told her, well, nothing I can do, so I'm sitting right. She said she loved my positivities, and she always put me together, and well, she know this important, and never pushing me, but into encouragement with her words is so wonderful, And then my the editor, the one who really edited my book, I never saw her and met her, but I just want to send my personal love and give gratitude to her. And a lot of things that I wrote, I said, what, maybe did too much. Maybe she will tell me remove it. But somehow she understood and she agreed with me. And she added on something. I did love that she was, that lady, she was so wonderful. And then throughout the process, I had to pick the picture for my book. And among few hundred pictures, I only can pick one, the one for the book. And the artwork is so absolutely wonderful.
Can you show us right now?
I know, it was absolutely amazing.
There it is. I Want to Learn Energy Healing, the guidebook for teaching others to heal and discovering the new chakra rays. I know you want to discover them. Your guide, Min Chao Craig. Congratulations, Min
Well,
Chao.
thank you so much, Angela.
Great job. Our next author is the author of Unpacked, an old soul's guide to the art of relocation. Christine Craft, hello.
Hey.
Well, first of all, your timing's crazy because everyone's moving. I moved twice. I moved from a castle into 2 houses. So I feel like all I've been doing is moving. My husband moved his stuff from England because he had been back in England. Let's see, Ramses on our team moved, Bethany on our team moved, Steve on our team moved. I don't know who hasn't moved since you started writing your book. Everyone I've met. So, are you psychic? Were you reading Min's book? How did you know how this topic, what's happening here, and why is everyone moving?
Oh, okay. So there are a few great juicy questions in there. And yeah, I've been known to be a tiny bit intuitive and psychic, but that's the second book. I'm going to flash my fabulous cover just right now.
Gorgeous.
And I noticed the same thing. What was going on for me in our home, I'm new to California, and my narrative, I have moved quite a lot, but it was only in this move that I really started to get clear about what dismantling and then planning, building up a life again, the sort of long-term energetics of that had become less interesting to me in my 50s than getting into the inner work of moving and shoring up. What is my life? What is the soul craving? Moving houses is a fairly simple issue on the material plane. But the trick is most of us think that's it. So my book is a chance to do the inner work, to look at the inner work of moving, and especially to give some language around what's similar and the same in every move in terms of like how the passage unfolds, but also the particularities that we will inevitably experience as personal challenges and fairly isolating, but that once we start talking, we will find other people. But there's somehow, especially for someone like me who in her 50s really felt like an accompanying spouse, I picked up and dismantled 15 years of life, raising children, postponing goals, postponing my art career, my coaching career. Not fully, but it was backburnered off and on, as all moms do. And I started to think, hey, if I don't put some boundaries out, even in this pandemic, and take this downsized home that we had because our kids were supposedly at college, well,
surprise.
Yeah, 60 days, literally 60 days we had moved in we went from a 5-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom house on the East Coast to the West Coast, and beautiful house. We're very lucky. Shelter is critical. This isn't a book for people who are struggling with those issues. That's a whole different conversation. This is a book about the inner work of homemaking, and especially on a move, and those trade-offs that we do athletically almost. But then the repercussions come and they're real and they demand our attention. So I could go on, but I'll stop.
So powerful. I've had so many conversations with people around the pandemic, around COVID, as kind of a great reset. Everything, and by great, I mean big, not necessarily awesome, but maybe that. I think a lot of the moving, I was listening to NPR this morning, and they were talking about the percentage of people that had moved in New York was up 56% from New York City, people moving out of cities. All these changes, do you think it's happening for all of us at once for a reason? Like a lot of times when I think of a move, it's just me that's moving. It's not everyone that's moving. It's maybe in a company of 50, maybe one person moves a year or two people move a year. But really, it seems like a lot of people are moving right now, and something is being
Yep.
unpacked. What do you think's happening?
I agree, and I touch a little bit on that issue in the book because it's very important. I do think there is a major question emerging for us about habitat. It's not just what kind of world do we want to live in, what kind of world do we want to co-create, what types of bias are we willing to throw out in service to the bigger vision, and what geographies are likely to facilitate that for us, or what partnerships. How do we live? Do we live with women? Do we live with men? Do we live alone? Can we tolerate the difference between being alone and being lonely? There's a really big difference. If there's one thing the pandemic teaches, I'm praying everybody can feel the difference between alone and lonely. They're very, very different. If we can start to tolerate, we make much clearer conscious decisions. But the quest for habitat is key. It's critical. How we land where we land isn't as much in control as we are likely to think. So at the end of the book, at the very end of the book, in the conclusion, I do make the suggestion that we too are the polar bear on the small piece of ice that's been shed from the glacier.
Yeah.
We find ourselves in the middle of summer, potentially without food, without a way back to the shore. So we have to do the work wherever we are. So the book is really a way to use the comfort of everyday nature, give yourself the embrace that things are what they are. They're all right. There's no better path than what you're on, where you are on it, whatever that shelter looks like. But grow it, grow your vision, become smaller in order to see bigger.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the stock on the stove. Boil it down, and let it serve as the basis for many delicious things to come in your life.
Love it, Christine. So you're probably moving or know someone who is. So you want to get them this book. Let's show it to them one more time. This is Unpacked, an old soul's guide to the art of relocation. And Christine Craft is the author. Congratulations, Christine.
Thank you, Angela. And shout out to Corey, to Madeline, to Ramses, and the entire fabulous author incubator team.
Awesome. And thanks to you for all of your support of me during my moves. I've gotten extra support. This is why I do this job, because I like to meet the authors personally. So I appreciate you and introductions and all your love and support through this process. So congratulations. Our next author is also here with book number 2, and it's another topic that the pandemic for many of us has brought to the surface, and that is the topic of love. Rosine Kushnick is the author of The Feminine Dating Revolution, the Zero Heartache Way of Attracting the Love of Your Life. Rosine, you're one of our resident love experts. Tell us about the Feminine Dating Revolution.
I would love to. So, as we can see in a pandemic, in a lockdown, we really get down to basics and we really learn who we are as human beings and what we need. And I think we all know now that we need meaningful, deep connection. And what often holds us back is that we have a fear we would lose our freedom, or more, or worse than that, that we would get hurt. And so I work with a lot of women who've had really painful experiences, and they feel they maybe rather be alone than take another risk for a heartache. And that actually gives me a heartache because I don't really believe it. I don't really believe that anyone truly would rather be alone. I just believe that they don't want to go through heartache. And so I developed this way, really an approach where not only can you avoid heartache completely, but actually become a much more liberated and empowered woman as you're going through the dating, even during lockdown. So that has been the joy and my enthusiasm for the last few months in writing this book.
So like Damiana's book, this book is a continuation of your first book. This is a deepening. I wonder what this year has been like and what's influenced this book. Is there anything with writing your first book that helped you develop some of the concepts in this second book?
Yes, absolutely. My first book is a book about very, very deep transformation, very deep healing work that changes our frequency, that then determines who we can attract, what we resonate with. And what I realized is that I needed to take one step back and just get really kind of start with first things first on how to actually go about the dating where, you know, I've had a friend who told me she accidentally, actually not just one friend, more than one, who accidentally dated a psychopath and who got into real big trouble. And so I realized that doesn't have to happen. It really doesn't have to happen, but you do need to know how. You need to know how to go about your dating process so that you're attracting a very a masculine man who is in his empowered masculine energy. So there's a very big difference between the empowered masculine energy that we all like and the disempowered masculine energy that leads to very painful relationships. And so I realized from writing the first book that we just need some basics on how to go about navigating, especially the online dating world, which can be very intimidating, off-putting. And I'm teaching it in such a way where women are literally enjoying themselves. They're enjoying who they are becoming. Their self-esteem is blossoming, and they are only going on dates with guys that are really good options. Oh, we're saving time, we're saving headaches, heartaches.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it.
So exciting. I am really impressed with your evolution as a coach, as a leader. You have shown up so consistently over the past year in ways that I've just watched you grow so much, and it's exciting. I know I've loved working with you, but is there anything you want to share about the Author Incubator experience in your journey?
Yes, absolutely. So, you know how I teach the zero heartache way? When you ask people, you know, what was your challenge in writing your second book or your first book, you literally teach or make it available as a possibility if you so choose to write a book with just no problem. Like my second book, honestly, it was a no issue. It really wasn't. I mean, it was a no issue event, I no longer struggled with the idea whether I am an author or not, because I already was. And so I could put that aside. And then you have a very, very clear way of laying it out where you really can't go wrong. You just really cannot go wrong. And anything related to writer's block or confusion, all of that is being handled if you have any of it. You know, I've talked with writers since I wrote my first book, and it took them years to write their book.
Yeah.
And a lot of suffering is involved. Also, the suffering of their spouses, all the way to breakups. That's how I get involved. And I'm like, that's just not necessary. It really is not. It's like, honestly, it's like with my dating thing, you just need to know how. And that's what you got it down, Pat. I mean,
That's
really.
my next subtitle is going to be the Zero Heartache Way of Getting Your Book Done.
There you go.
I'll be
And
part of your series.
Madeline and Corey were just fantastic.
Aw,
Yeah,
such a good team.
yeah.
Do you have a copy of your cover?
I don't.
Well,
It's
hopefully-
gorgeous. It's
I was going to
absolutely
say, it's
gorgeous.
one of our nicest covers. I'm
It
going to
is.
shout out Jennifer, our designer, on that one. You've
Yes.
had two gorgeous covers. People are going to
Yes.
have to look you up.
Yes.
Rosine Kushnick. You can find her on Amazon. Notice how beautiful her book covers are. And then download both of her books. This one is The Feminine Dating Revolution, the Zero Heartache Way of Attracting the Love of Your Life. Congratulations, Rosine.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Great job. Our next author is also presenting book number 2, and it has been an incredible journey to this book. I'm so excited to share with you Shumei Zong's The Medicine Magi, 12 Steps from Depleted Doctor to Magic Healer of the New Earth. Speaking of amazing covers, I just have to shout out your cover and then we'll talk about your book. People can see it there in the background. I did not know Shumei was also an artist, but she actually painted her own cover and has been making her artwork available. I don't know if you have that one in a print, but you've been doing such great artwork, which is so surprising. Is that new? Or have you always been an artist too?
I think I was an artist when I was little, and the gift was never used until now. I become an author, and all this is opened up. It like exploded.
Yes. Well, you were, a year and a half ago, career coaching, helping people make a decision about whether or not to leave their medical career. That on the earthly plane is where your journey as an author started, helping people make that should I stay or should I go decision. You've really taken this to the next level. This is really a book about shifting to this world of magic. And how did that evolution happen? And who is this book for? How is this different than your first book?
Good question. I don't know how you feel about 2020. I know a lot of people describe it as like lost in the maze because you just blocked, you cannot see very far. And you cannot predict what's going to coming up, jump at you, right? And while we are so confused and fear and insecure in that maze, one population that least expect to experience this is our medical heroes. And as a matter of fact, people probably not aware of this is they have been experiencing this maze of the healthcare system long before the 2020 pandemic. And this pandemic is just hit really hard. And if you got confused with the information all from different places like government, and authorities, and you probably the first one, if you know any doctors or scientists around you, you will go ask them like, what is really about this, right? What should I do? But you never know. They are confused too, and they are exhausted, and they are sick, and they need to be healed as well, more than they allow themselves to. And if my first book was about helping those people, helping those burnout physicians and scientists and nurses and healthcare professionals to find an emergency exit or a panic bell in a gigantic maze they're suffering, at least they can get out and take a breath and readjust themselves and find their own calling and realign their purpose, and then think about what about their career before the career or the job really killing them, and before their anxiety turn into depression and suicidal. And my second book, this book, is really about the process of elevating them above that maze, because you have to see in a different plan and from a different view of the whole thing, and then you can ask the right question, provide the right answer to people while they're so confused on the ground level. You cannot see clearly. So this 12 step I described in this book is really elevating them so that they can make a clear choice of their own career and take care and heal themselves so that they can heal other people better. No more sick doctors taking care of sick patients.
I love that as a mission. No more sick doctors taking care of sick patients. That's a really powerful mission. What is how do you work with people now? Who would qualify to work with you, and what does your practice look like?
Any biomedical healthcare professionals.
So research, or if they work with patients, yeah.
They feel burned out, they feel confused, and they feel they have a bigger calling that cannot be fulfilled. Like they lost their compassion. They used to be compassionate about this career, but now they lost it. They don't know what to do about it. But there is something more, and they're trying to find their way out. They can find me. I do private one-on-one coaching. I also do group coaching and have our retreat and training program in our Medicine Mage Academy.
I love it, the Medicine Mage Academy. What's your favorite thing about being an author?
Oh my God, this is so hard to choose. I love everything about becoming an author through the author incubator. This is the best investment. If you ever want to write a book, leave a legacy to this world, and you can die without deathbed regret, this is the investment, everything about it, the process. And the most important thing I love is really the process of connecting to your higher self, the inner wisdom and collective consciousness. You can download brilliant things to your book, and you will read my book and you will know what I'm talking about.
So true. That is so true. I think writing in community and a community of such high vibe people is a big piece of that. But it's also the way you and so many of our authors have embraced that journey. Your first book was great, but how fast you've moved this year through your own growth has been really powerful. I mentioned that with Rosine as well. But I love seeing your own growth and how you've stepped up in leadership. The Medicine Mage book and the Medicine Mage Academy, so powerful. You can see the book right there on the screen. Xumei Zhang is the author of The Medicine Mage, 12 Steps from Depleted Doctor to magic healer of the new earth. Thank you for helping to create a beautiful new earth, Dr. Z. We love you. Take care. Well, we have talked about how traditional medicine can lead to burnout for sure. And we have seen such dramatic changes in people's willingness to consider alternative paths in the world of medicine. And we're about to talk about one of those right now with the author of Changing Birth on Earth, the Midwife and Nurse's Guide to Using Physiology to Avoid Another Unnecessary Cesarean. Gail Tully, congratulations on this very, very important book, especially right now. I'm so excited to have you here.
Angela, thank you so much. You have changed my life. Thank you so much.
Well, you have changed so many people's lives, so many moms' lives, and Changing Birth on Earth. I know it was in many, many, many ways my giving birth that birthed me. I talk about this. I always have to shout out my doula who changed my life because she taught me, which seemed like the craziest thing in the world, but she taught me that I could say no. She taught me of a concept called informed consent. When the concept I had learned about medicine was you have to be a good girl and listen to your doctors. And learning how to listen to my body and trusting my body's wisdom shaped everything that happened in the 14 years since. So my child's birthday every year is also my birthday, and I always send flowers to my doula. So
oh, wow, Angela, that's beautiful.
Changing Birth on Earth changes the world, but I want to hear more specifically from you about this book and the topic of unnecessary cesarean.
Changing Birth on Earth supports the grassroots movement going on with labor and delivery nurses and midwives in hospital birth settings that are seeking to have physiological solutions in a high-tech setting. We've got a 34% cesarean rate in our country. We have an 88% cesarean rate in Brazil, and there's high rates all along the East Coast in both Americas. And, you know, nature didn't intend for 1/3 or more of babies not to be able to get out of the womb. So there's so much attention on very important care for high risk, ill people that the attention for what is the body's own response to labor hormones and the body's ability has been lost. What I'm doing is changing the paradigm from just bearing with a natural birth to understanding birth anatomy, the fascia, the ligaments, the muscles in the body, and the fascia receptors, a jiggle, a slow stretch, and suddenly what was rigid and unmobile is now supple, and the baby says, thank you very much, and is able to rotate and move through the pelvis. I started a company called Spinning Babies about 20 years ago. I had been trying to write a book, Angela, in 1999. And I worked a couple years on it, and I thought I should go have a workshop and see if midwives and nurses like this, and doulas. The doulas were so receptive. I got so busy, I didn't have my book. And I want to tell you a story that happened. I was feeling the conflict of I want to write my book, but I'm going to these workshops and I'm meeting the needs of doulas and midwives and nurses that are asking for the Spinning Babies information because it's working and they're avoiding cesareans and inductions, augmentations, not for everybody, but enough that this has gone around the world with rapid speed, surprising speed. And I was going to take a nap feeling like, okay, I'm just tired. I'm going to lay down and take a nap and I'm just going to open myself up. Am I going to be able to write this book? And it was like a voice said, if you don't write this book now in 2005, it will be 2020. And I was like, oh no, I'll get to it before then. And I haven't. It was 2020. So I started this year going, this is it. This is my last chance. I have been working on this. I have shelves and boxes of notes and chapters, and it was never good enough. It was never good enough. I wanted to learn more and more. This year, I had a total revolution. Everything changed in my life. A wonderful person came out of my Spinning Babies workshop, my Spinning Babies company, that could organize me. And she said, I want you to be able to do the talents that you have. I'm here to run things so you can do it. And I said, I'm getting online and I'm going to find a book coach. And I had seen your ads, Angela, and I thought, oh, that's very confident. I'm not a real confident person. So it was a little bit much for me. And I saw you again and again. And then my friend, Deborah Pascali-Bonaro, succeeded with your program. I went, I know she's top line. What she does and says yes to, I just went and signed up that night. People are like, oh, that's very expensive. Oh no, this is so economical. When you look at what is the cost of an editor, somebody who holds your hand, Madeline Costin is amazing. She's unflappable. I am a bit to work with. She held my hand through this whole thing, was there. Like, I'm like, Madeline, don't you have other people to work with? You're just on it. And she was amazing. The editing, the design, the support, the know-how. And I'm a very do-it-yourself person. I had my baby at home. I tried the homeschooling before it was,
required by law.
I wasn't very good at it. I'm very do-it-yourself. And your program gives me the support to have a bit of that do-it-yourself and have a professional team that knows what they're doing. I wouldn't have finished it without you. When Ramsey said, everybody, 100% of people get their manuscript in at the deadline, everybody succeeds. We've never had someone not succeed. I was like, I would not have succeeded if he hadn't said that with his joy and enthusiasm. I was not going to let him down. I did 23 hours without leaving my seat, 23 hours. And I had,
so you know about numb bum. Whenever I'm writing a book, I'm like, oh, I didn't know my bum could actually get numb, but it can.
I'm not actually living the physiology by sitting that much, but we've got it done. And
wow. Yes, let's show everybody that cover.
Look at that beautiful
Changing
book.
Birth on Earth. That's a gorgeous cover. Changing Birth on Earth, is that, I noticed there's a TM there. Is that part of a program you offer, or what is it?
We are turning this into a support program for labor and delivery nurses and midwives who want training at their hospitals. We have done hospital trainings, and it really supports the staff. We take, the lead nurses, the doctors, the childbirth educators, and on different levels and different ways according to that hospital needs. And they put Spinning Babies into their electric fetal monitoring system. So when some of the techniques in this book are used at the bedside, the nurse can click it into her computerized notes. And it's a wonderful program. We're developing it now, and it's going to be ready at the end of next year, but we are really doing it top line.
And are hospitals open to this?
We have a waiting list that we can't get to yet. And I will tell you what, Angela, we have labor and delivery nurses that just found my website, spinningbabies.com, without even going to a workshop. And they're using it where 2 or more are determined to bring in physiological birth. And they're reducing their cesarean rates. I've got, the book talks about a group of nurses at Whittier Hospital in California who went online. They took their 32% cesarean rate for that hospital. And now it's at 18% month after month. But the nurse that instituted this got it down to 7.8% one month.
Wow. And I think WHO says something like 10% is kind of.
Yes, the World Health Organization says a 10 to 15% is the safest, and that's for all people, but it's not economical. So this is why it's a grassroots movement, that the labor and delivery nurses and the doctors who really want to, you know, serve the parents what they want. Most parents say, I would like to have a natural birth, a birth from the power of their own body. I would like to see what it's like. I don't want to suffer, of course. I might try the epidural, but I want to see what it's like a little bit. I want to experience a relationship with my body. And then they get into that setting and they find out that actually there isn't a lot of skills for natural birth. There are a lot of important skills for cesarean birth, and that's good. But we're in a time where physiological birth skills are lacking for 98% of the where birth's happening, right? In the hospital, that's where birth's happening.
Right.
And this is a paradigm shift, just like you did a paradigm shift in publishing, where you're holding their hand, you're holding my hand through the process. It's phenomenal. And this is very similar in that we help a step-by-step systematic way that a labor and delivery nurse and a midwife in the hospital can look up, where is this baby? Let's make room for the baby, understanding birth anatomy in new ways.
Oh, it's so exciting. I love how this ties in with Shumei's work, Dr. Z's work with the Medicine Mage, because I think part of the burnout that medical professionals experience is that pressure of one intervention cavalcading after the next, and being able to be a magic healer, watch what's possible physiologically in women's bodies, what they were designed to do, is such a beautiful and nourishing event for the medical providers too, as well as the families.
Two midwives in Liverpool, England came up to me once and said, we tried that technique on your website outside the operating room. We were waiting for them to clean the OR, the operating room, so that we could bring in a person in labor whose baby wasn't coming out. And since we had a couple of minutes to wait, we tried the technique. And then we quickly called the doctor inside the operating theater and said, cancel the OR, the baby's in the gurney. The baby came right out in a gurney in the hallway. You know, these are techniques that I've collected from wonderful sources outside of birth, outside of where we get birth information today. And this is why it's revolutionary, because it's lateral knowledge. It's knowledge from traditional culture. It's knowledge from body work sources. And it's knowledge from the wise birth keepers of the world that are figuring this out. And all I've done is systemize it, added a new understanding of fetal rotation, how it works, and what birth positions, so that parents can use it, doulas can use it, labor and delivery nurses and doctors are using it.
I love it. I love it. Well, Gail Tully of Spinning Babies, you are a national treasure. I'm so grateful for the work you do. Please show your book cover one more time. If you know a midwife, a doula, a labor and delivery nurse, an OBGYN, get this book in their hands. Changing Birth on Earth, the Midwife and Nurse's Guide to Using Physiology to Avoid Another Unnecessary Cesarean by Gail Tully. Thank you so much for being with us, Gail.
Thank you, Angela.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next author is somebody who is talking about a topic that is in the news more than ever, and that topic is anxiety. She is the author of Break Free from Anxiety, a practical guide to manage your anxiety and love your life. Hopefully she's going to say something other than take a lot of Xanax. Tanya Overton. Wow, is there a lot of anxiety? We have seen the rates of suicide going up. We have seen alcoholism on the rise, sales of drugs and alcohol, people trying everything from medical marijuana and CBD. We don't know what to do with all this anxiety. wow, is your book needed more than ever? Why did you write Break Free from Anxiety?
That's just it. I wrote Break Free from Anxiety because everything is off the hook. Domestic violence. I mean, even like dental work, I worry about dental work. People are grinding their teeth at sleep.
Crack?
So
You're talking about crack teeth?
yes, everything. People are overweight. People are losing weight. People are not eating. People are losing their hair. So it was just something that called me forth. It was really, I mean, the book itself is amazing, but I will talk about the climate in which I gave birth to it, right? It's like I could not answer it. As a mental health provider and what was going on in the pandemic, I kept asking, I kept praying to God, like, where do I get in? I want to get in, God, I want to get in. And I've been doing what I've been doing for almost 30 years now. And I work in some really like post-trauma stress disorder. Anxiety is a symptom of trauma. Once you get trauma and we get you past that and you're in a post-traumatic state, anxiety is almost something you live with. It's almost like something that's always there as a trigger. But this time in this age, we're living with situational anxiety. People are getting laid off. Businesses that have been businesses for 20 and 30 years are no longer doing business like they are, or they're out of business completely.
20% of small businesses are going out of business, have gone out of business since the pandemic.
Exactly. And that really was something. And I mean, when it got to, Black Lives Matter, and I start seeing young people out there with the passion and the zeal. And, I mean, I grew up in the 60s. And so I was like, I understand civil rights, but I'm more of a human rights, advocate with some of the work I do with human trafficking and stuff. And so anxiety was it. It called me forth. And, the book is really about taking and translating the clinical aspects of anxiety for everyday conversations, everyday lives, everyday living in situations, events, and circumstances in everyday people's lives that are impacted right now by overthinking, worry, and anxiety over their future. Because this book really gives language to like real people's lives, like people I've actually worked with that either were in trauma or anxiety and depression clinically. And I've taken that language to everyday language for what we're dealing with right now in the pandemic. And it's been amazing to see the response on just some of my people that I've shared the book with in the advanced stages of it. Just as a clinician, I just wanted to be responsible. And their responses have been amazing. And I have to
let me ask you a question. One of the things, even as a mom, I always find hard is like, when do I go to the hospital? Like if my kid has a cut, well, I don't know when he's going to need stitches, but I don't want to go sit around in the emergency room. I think anxiety is very similar. It's like, when do I need your book versus when do I need to call you and maybe have sessions with you or work with you? What's that line? Are there any symptoms that you can suggest for when people should be calling you and who should read your book? What's that line between those two things?
So that's awesome. Thank you for that question. Chapter 4 of my book is really a chapter for clinical assessment, but in an everyday language type of way. So you get to, as the care provider of your own self, being responsible for your own cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when your mind just keeps going and you're like, okay, do I go to the doctor or do I just chill out? I need to breathe, I just need to breathe. I'm sorry, I got a call coming in. And that's perfect timing.
Right.
And so inside of the conversations, like from day one, page 1, the situations, the real life examples that I use in the book people identify with it. So you will be able to, as a reader, look at the book and go through the guide from beginning to end. And I take the responsibility because of who I am for humanity. I take on being responsible that you are empowered. So you get to see where it's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I'm overthinking this and I need to chill out. To, oh, you know what? I need to contact her. I think she can really help me. And I can do some, coaching and clinical work it may be something that you need Xanax or something, there are clinical aspects. And I really don't sugarcoat, those dynamics in the book. It's not a book to disappear anxiety, but to break free from the impact and the pressure that's on you and on your thinking, your mind and your body. And you actually taking power to really shift your paradigm for your identity from, and I do this with, like, again, human trafficking victims and just domestic violence. And I have a way of shifting who you are and your identity in relationship to anxiety, right? And then in relationship to your power and the source of who you're going to be in this situation, who you're going to be in this event. Like, yo, these circumstances are these circumstances, but I'm who I am and I get to say, and just create the future and the life that you love. And I take you through that. And at the end of it, you should know, you know what, I need extra help, or this book is good. This gives me some practices to practice, but I definitely need to contact her, or I definitely need to go to the doctor because it's beyond that.
Well, that's why I think everyone should get this book right now, because I think we are all in a state of trauma.
Yep.
So many of us in a state of anxiety. I think you should know where you are and where that line is. It's almost like we all have to become mental health experts in this environment for ourselves, for our partners, for our kids. We need more training here. So I think it's really an important book for that reason.
And I think that in one of the chapters, I say you have to locate yourself. It's like at the mall, if you're standing at the entrance of the mall and you're trying to get to the food court, or you're trying to get to Macy's, you have to locate I am here. And that's something that actually empowers you for the instructions and guide in the book. That actually will empower you once you get to locate yourself. And I'm really excited about the therapeutic model for communicating anxiety in your life to your family and your community, as well as to your doctor.
Yep, love that. Super powerful. Anxiety is a big piece of writing a book. A lot of what comes up and stops people from writing is just the anxiety about, am I good enough? Will I be judged? Will people like it? Do I really have something to say? We can spin out on that and not get our book done. We have some training I do, but also Ramses as our author support helps with that anxiety through the process. I wonder if that came up for you, and if so, how you managed.
Okay, so you're making me sweat already, because that did come up for me. And then you're gonna also make me cry, because there was a point in time when I just surrendered, and I knew this book needed to get out, and I knew the universe was calling me and wanted my voice print on impacting what it is that we're dealing with as human beings on this planet together. And at some point, the book started writing me, and I did experience different ways of anxiety that I had to apply and implement. And I think from the application to my last call with Natasha, if it weren't you, there would be no me. It's like, I am you, you are me. And she was born for me to breathe the book. And this book is so authentic. And I didn't hide from anxiety. I didn't hide from being confronted from the blank page was winning and I was being defeated, to defeating the blank page by the support, the structure, the community, the love, just the trust and the belief that had to go both ways of what we were dealing with. But I know I wasn't born an author, but in your clearing, I declared, you are my midwife, and gave birth to an author that just has a book now.
Yes.
Because of it. But no, yes, there are times when you get anxiety in the process, but the ease, the freedom, the peace of mind, the love, the affirmation, the trust, like everything that makes us human and makes what's possible, like in the realm of possibility. Your team, there's a special mojo of who you are and how you handpick not only the people who is on your team, but how you picked me, like how you picked us, and being a clinician for 30 years and a coach, but not an author, or not being able to speak it in relationship or hug or touch people, but then having to touch it with words. You are amazing. And I and my family thank you. And I thank Ramses, I thank Natasha, and I thank the Author Incubator team. I thank my cohorts. And I am so excited for what the world is going to see, because this book I already know it's transformed so many people because of this relationship, this partnership. So thank you.
Thank you. I think that answer was such a gift, because we can look at other people and think, well, her book's about anxiety, she must have it figured out. I have worked with thousands of authors. All of them have anxiety. But it doesn't matter what you're an expert in. Marianne Williamson, who's one of our mentors on our team, says you can't priest yourself. It doesn't mean you're a failure because you got help. It means you're a success because you got help. And I think when it comes to managing anxiety in our lives, or setting and reaching a goal, being able to have support around you and saying, hey, I'm going to do this, not because nothing's going to come up, but because I've got my own back when something does, which it will, especially in 2020, 20 things will come up. So yes, congratulations. I talk a lot about authors being brave, and that's what I mean. Thank you for modeling that, because I think people watching will learn so much from that you're not alone and you can do it. So congratulations. Break Free from Anxiety, a practical guide to manage your anxiety and love your life. There it is, Royal Purple, just like Tanya M. Overton. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next author is here again, carrying on this theme of alternatives in medicine, to show you can, as a therapist, have compliant clients. She does that in her book, Make Rehab Clients Beg for Homework, the new framework to integrate therapy into daily routines. Julie Renee Smith. Julie, I have had rehab and I have not begged for homework. Tell me the secret. What's this book about?
Hi, Angela. Thanks for having me today. This book is actually a way to help therapists creatively integrate those little tiny techniques into your daily routine. People don't succeed with their rehab. Why you didn't beg for homework? You had to set aside a big amount of time to do these exercises that you may or may not have understood, may or may not have liked.
They hurt.
They hurt. And when you can break the exercise down into smaller parts, one, they don't hurt, so you actually want to do them. And if I give you 10 things that you never do, we're never going to get anywhere. If I give you 2 that you're going to do 6 times a day, every time you pee or every time you eat or something, then you actually make progress. Things start to become just part of the routine. You forget that they're therapy. You just do them.
I love that. So powerful. In your first book with us was about foot pain and was really working directly with consumers or people with foot pain. This book, you seem to transition to working with care providers. Tell me more about who is a good person to read this book so people know who should get it.
So this book, I sort of targeted people like me who are doing rehab therapies, whether that's physical therapy, occupational therapy, massage therapy, because I used to be that person who couldn't figure out how to get people to do their homework because it hurt or whatever other excuse they came up with. And I've actually had some conversations with some counselors and some other play therapists and kid rehab, and pretty much anybody that's got clients that you need to do something outside of your therapy sessions could benefit from this book. It's written in a way that's kind of the language of physical therapy, but the steps are easy to implement as you kind of take it and apply it to your own industry. So if you have clients that you need to do something at home, this would apply to you.
I love it. Compliance is the number one reason why people don't get results. Even in my industry in publishing, most book coaches have a 3% completion rate. We have 100% completion rate. And the reason why is we get people to integrate book writing into their daily routines. Some people have talked about how there's almost no way not to do it. Because without compliance, you've got information and maybe another visit, but that is really the key to success. And I don't think there's anything more important than getting results. Doesn't matter how good you are at teaching it if you don't get the results for your clients. So
absolutely.
I love this. Was there anything that was different for you second time around? Better, worse, easier, harder? Talk about the process.
Well, what's different is 2020. So as you
have an in-person clinic, your whole business has changed.
Yep. So as you were talking about earlier, the small businesses going out of business rate is really high. I had an interdisciplinary clinic and half of my staff went out of business. The governor had issued an order that we couldn't actually be in practice and work. So finding other ways to help people and doing online things and so on. And there's a lot of things that go with the 2020 experience. Moving offices, speaking of moving,
yep.
Losing an office and gaining an office and losing people and gaining other people and gaining some perspective. I was going kind of round and round with myself. Like, I really want to write another book. Do I write another, Conquer Pain book in another region of the body? I've been doing that for years and years. Do I engage other therapists? Am I burnout? What am I doing? Often. Time goes by and I'm busy juggling, 2020 and what's happening to my business. And I get a message from my editor saying, hey, I've opened up all the rest of the things because your deadline's 7 days from now. Ta-da! And I go, so I took a deep breath, went with the program. And my absolute favorite thing that you guys do is you're right on time. You have plenty of time. Don't worry. You're right where you should be. You have plenty of time. So I managed to.
It's weirdly true though, isn't it?
It is. I managed to, in the middle of a physical therapy conference, to get my continuing ed to renew my license, which happens this year as well, pulled a book out of my head in 5 days. And it was
because more time doesn't make it easier. there wouldn't have been less shit going down.
Right. and just knowing, you know, that reinforcement of you have plenty of time, you can do this, you have plenty of time, you've done the process, and knowing the process before helped me actually rely on the process. I did the steps, I followed through, filled in the blanks, ta-da, manuscript with all the stuff going down in the middle of a conference and every other excuse under the sun. Ta-da.
I love that. Let's show everyone. There it is. Beautiful cover too. Make rehab clients beg for homework, the new framework to integrate therapy into daily routines, by Julie Renee Smith. Congratulations on number.
Thanks, Angela.
You did. Great job. Our next author is the author of Recover from the Shock and Pain of Finding Out That Your Spouse is Cheating. The book is called Betrayed by Dr. Jersey Wolster. Dr. Jersey Wolster, welcome. I am very excited to talk to you. What a time for relationships. Betrayed, tell us about this book. What's it about?
Betrayed is about assisting people to recover with what seems like impossible times. It has, my life journey has been, I've been a holistic practitioner for almost 40 years, and I just see what happens in the human condition and spirit when one is hurt, harmed, broken, whatever the word is, and how do they recover. It's a step-by-step book that's got how-to cookbook style thinking in it. It also has a rich philosophy of understanding that one of the greatest gifts we have is that of independent thought. And the power to choose and make conscious decisions lies within everyone. We all have this gift from the divine. And I think in the busyness of the world, we're forgetting the basics. So it is about taking what seems like impossible situations and turning them around and finding the gifts in them and uncovering what our role in it is. Because for me, in order to recover from any condition, whether it's surgery or heartbreak, whether it's betrayal or another problem, we need to take a look at our role in it. And sometimes it's hard to do. It's hard to say, where did I go wrong? How did I screw up? And sometimes we don't. But there's still, I think, in the big scheme, there's a reason these lessons come to us. And as a practitioner, I have worked with, for again, decades. I call it the 4 components: mind, body, soul, emotion. And I don't think we can just, it's not like a broken leg you put a cast on. I think it's not like you go on a diet, lose 30 pounds or the anxiety or the difficulty. I think it's about finding the pathway towards integrating all of those components, because we're as strong as our weakest one. And I think we've become a very dissected society. I see it in patients now when they come to my office or my coaching clients. They come in for this condition. I attempt, and sometimes that's perfectly fine, but I attempt to say, what's the whole being doing? What's the whole mind doing? Where's your alignment with the 4 components? And what part do we need to start with?
Remember the first time I went to therapy, I was 20 something, 22, 23, and I went through a big breakup. And I went to a therapist because I figured she could fix something and I could get my boyfriend back. I'm like, to do the thing, and then I'll just be fit, like, give me the thing. And she wanted to talk about like my whole life. And I'm like, when do we get to the breakup? And you tell me what to say to the guy to get him back. And that journey, that holistic journey, is really the only path to healing. But there can be resistance, at least from 22-year-old girls like me, where I just want to make the pain stop or the shock stop, that situation go away. And I think that's why a lot of us have turned to pharmaceuticals, just like, where's the silver bullet? Where's the pill to make it go away? Where do you ride that line? What do you...
Again, as a holistic physician, I get to use vitamins and nutrition and homeopathy and herbology and a whole lot of other holistic healing modalities. Most certainly there's a time and place for medications. I'm not, I do accept that. But what I've realized in a world of crazy confusion and times, we are continuously as a population seeking external solutions. And as I write in the book, there's not enough drugs, sex, gambling, food. There's not enough out there that will ever fill the void and fix what we need to do ourselves. And so what I've realized through my journey and through the journey of the patients and the clients I've worked with is when we, I don't know what the word is, perhaps surrender to the reality that there is, for me anyway, a divine knowing. How do we return to our knowing? How do we find our quiet mind? How do we find that place of stillness in a very busy world that is our only real solution? You know, and it's interesting, I call it the abuse or overuse of internet and social media. Sure, it has a place, but we're in a world that people are getting answers for their lives off of some opinion piece they read on the internet, and no longer checking sources or finding professionals. And I think a lot of people can help us, but false data and false information can harm us, especially if we don't have a blueprint. So my book is really about a blueprint of recovering after the insane condition of betrayal. There's a saying that says, in life, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I would love to know who wrote that, because I don't know, but I do see that. After 40 years of practicing in holistic field and medicine, I've never seen anyone who didn't have pain. Physical, mental, emotional, maybe it is part of the human condition. And it isn't whether or not we can recover, it's whether or not we know that lying within us is the answers, and go get help from the coaches, the practitioners, the family members. And we don't need to be alone. No man really is an island, and perhaps it does take a village, so to speak. But I just think we need to look at the broader picture. And again, because I've done this for so long, years ago when I was practicing, people kept coming to me and asking me for information and data and ideas and wanted to talk to me. I said, I better go get certified in this. This is decades ago, because people are asking me and I need to know what I'm saying. So I do think there's a hope and a place for us to recover from really just about anything. Humankind, however challenges we have, it's an amazing entity of total possibility. If we're willing to take a look at the unseen, if we're willing to take a look at our internal knowing and return and really remember who and what we are. I think the connectedness is critical. And
do you have a copy of your book?
I do.
We can show everyone.
Sure. Here it is.
There it is. Betrayed. Recover from the shock and pain of finding out that your spouse is cheating. Tools really to help you cope through the shock and pain of anything, but particularly if that is a trauma you are going through or know someone who is, please download it. The book is by Dr. Jerzy Wolster. Congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Great job. Our next author is the author of Free Yourself from Grief, The Secret to Moving On with Life After the Death of a Parent. I am thrilled to welcome Julie Tourangeau. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you? I'm so excited.
I am fantastic and really thrilled to talk to you about Free Yourself from Grief, the death of a parent, something we all dread, or a lot of us for sure dread. Tell us about this book.
Absolutely. So this is something I've wanted to write for a while. My dad passed away in 2008, and it was a really horrifying experience in the sense that that so many of us can relate to, that the things that accompany death. Sometimes there's family drama or financial hardship, and the pain and grief of losing your mom or dad is difficult enough, but then there's usually a slew of other things in the mix that happens. And part of that, when we focus on the loss of somebody, when that love we felt in the physical leaves the material world behind, we tend to see and attract more loss in our lives, and the cost of choosing not to deal with this pain is just far too great. So I find that sharing the experiences after my dad passed away, so my sister and I, we weren't even invited to the reading of the will, and we had really intense hardships. And if you were to ask me back during this loss, if I would be writing a book about overcoming it, I would have been like, yeah, right. I don't see how I'm going to get out of this one. And so I even write about how, which I consider one of the most magical times of my life, is the time of being homeless after my dad passed away, because it's really those miraculous solutions that come to you where you can see tangible evidence of being helped from the other side. So I totally believe that somewhere in between the coincidences in our life, we see tangible as evidence of the divine and consciousness. And I write about the story that really woke me up in a way after my dad passed away. I went to a women's health expo with all these healers and coaches in Birmingham, Michigan, and there was a psychic there, medium by the name of Lisa J. Smith. She was on CBS radio at the time. And I had no awareness that I'd be read or anything. Like, this is a few months after my dad passed, and my mom took me there to kind of cheer me up. We're like looking at salt lamps and stuff.
I've been to this with my mom too. Yep.
So, you know, Lisa, she picked me out of a crowd of people, and she was giving like impromptu readings. And there's tons of people there. So even the statistical chances of getting read were slim. And so she picks me out of a crowd. She says, your dad is with you. He's giving you a big bear hug right now. And to validate it's him, he's showing me dark circles under his eyes. And that's like a weird thing to say. So my dad was actually super insecure about the circles and bags under his eyes. And that was a family secret. He used to borrow my mom's concealer in the bathroom when I was a little girl. I remember being like, that's weird. He used to call it a Toronjo trait, that like one day I would get it. So her saying that was so weird. And she had so many other validating messages that it just sort of woke me up like, wow, energy is in absolutely everything. No one truly dies. Consciousness is with us. So, and when I've told this story over the years for people who have lost a loved one or a parent, it's just like instantly you can see they're already starting to free themselves from their grief. But there truly is a method to this. And that's why I really wanted to put it into a book about how to attract signs from heaven, how to overcome seemingly impossible circumstances. I mean, I went from being homeless to being featured in a national magazine. I rose in leadership in both insurance and natural foods, which is something I write about in my book. And too much synchronicity to say statistically that, you know, it was just too obsolete of a chance that this would just randomly all happen. So I really wanted to put it out there to help people invite the miraculous into their lives through their mindset, and also to be able to communicate with their loved ones in a new way. So no one really dies. Everyone is still with you, and we become a part of that too when we leave. And I really do believe time on the other side, it just doesn't exist like it does for us in this realm. And when they can reach you through all directions of time, things will just start lining up. So that's something that I was really passionate about, getting this message out. Interesting, it happened in 2020. I just found myself, you know, freed up with time and being able to write this book. And so many people are suffering from grief right now, whether it's, you know, a loss of a loved one because of COVID-19, or the loss of sense of normalcy, and relationships are shifting, and tons of people are moving, including myself, when I was writing this book. So there's tons of loss, and no one's above that in our own humanity. And I'm really excited to Lisa J. Smith, the first psychic that read me, actually wrote my foreword.
So congratulations. That's amazing.
So things really have come full circle for healing, and I'm just really excited to pay that message forward and just help anyone that's going through a major loss just know that you can find a silver lining and a path out of it, and you will enter into this new type of reality and relationship with your loved one, that they've never left you. They're always with you, and you are completely loved and supported always.
I love that. Do you feel like you had help from the other side in writing this book, in finding us and getting the book done? And if so, how? Tell us that story.
Timing is amazing. That's all I can say. I just feel like this whole year, as much as it's had its, you know, tumultuous circumstances and issues, I can feel the guidance and the help from the other side so strongly. Even when I was about to finish writing this book, a week before my manuscript was due, I found myself, you know, ending a 2-year relationship. And so my living situation changed, and I didn't know how I was going to be able to even finish writing this book. But with the work that the author incubator helps you prepare, it's like I had all the homework done where I knew exactly what I needed to implement that week, even though things were crazy. And things really worked out. I ended up dedicating my book to really the love of my life, that we were able to refine each other again through those situations. So it's like, I never would have dictated any of the change I've had this past year in my own finite human understanding. But when the shift happens, when shift is happening in your life, you just have to buckle up, trust it, let the universe rearrange and, shuffle things, like introducing Author Incubator into your life, finding this new path, and let it manifest. And then your wildest dreams come true. It's pretty amazing. So
that is how it works. You said it perfectly. Do you have a copy of your book there?
I do.
Let's show everybody. Here it is. Free Yourself from Grief: The Secret to Moving On with Life After the Death of a Parent by Julie Taranjo. Congratulations, Julie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great job. It's such an amazing feeling to finish your book, and it never gets old. Our next author is on book number 2, and she has called it Guerrilla Startup: Unique Steps to Run and Sustain Your Business. Claudette Yarborough. Claudette, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Loria. Thank you for welcoming me.
So Guerrilla Startup, you have a lot of experience starting and running many businesses, organizations, charities, running teams. Who is Guerrilla Startup for? What kind of startup, and who will benefit from this book?
So Guerrilla Startup is for all those people who call me at midnight asking me how to run a business, and me losing my voice and busting a lot of bubbles about people calling me with all of these strange ideas and different ideas and just wanting to know how to get started. So the other part about Guerrilla Startup is, because of the pandemic, starting up and running is one thing. But as you mentioned, sustaining and keeping your business is totally different. And so as I started looking at Guerrilla Startup, I couldn't just talk about how to get started or how to run, but really thinking proactively about how will you sustain your business in different situations. And so it's
you've been through many years of business, so you've been through other financial dips before. What do you think is different about running a business in a down economy versus running a business in more of a go-go economy?
Very little difference. I think if you're running your business in a way that is proactive, you're doing some of the same things in an up or down economy. You have a plan. And if you have to adjust your plan, that's part of running your business, looking at yourself, Dr. Loria, and all the things you are doing, like this virtual call right now with a launch, right? This is so new and different because you're used to having 5,000 people in front of you, but you've done a marvelous job of redirecting and not losing your business and keeping it going. And even I dare I say, thriving differently. So, my first book was Begin Again Differently, right? And so you always, I think you have to do that every day. You get new mercies every day, new different things you're looking at every day. So whether you're in a down or an up economy, you have a plan. You're being smart about how you do business no matter what. I don't think there's very little difference, because business, I think, is about change. You don't have an idea and work it like that for 30, 40 years. Not anymore, right? Because the world's been changing for a while in a lot of different ways. And so you have this mindset about you that's looking at your people, your product, your services, your money differently every day to find that advantage, to keep it going. So I don't really believe, I know some people may disagree, but I don't believe there's a lot of difference.
Do you think anyone can start a business, or do you think there's some required qualities that you have to be able to start a business?
Anyone can start a business with the required credentials. You got to want to. You got to have a mission. You got to have a vision. You just can't be, one day pie in the sky. Well, I want to own my business one day. What are you doing about it? Dreaming, wishing. That's not going to get anything done. So absolutely, you have to have within yourself the want to, right? To say this is important to me. I think along the way, if you fail and start again, you find out where your thinking was off. Where did I go wrong? You know, why did I have this pie in the sky mentality, right?
Yep.
And I talk to a lot of people who want to start businesses who really don't have a clue, but they have a dream. And I think you do have to start with a dream. Eventually, you got to get a clue because that clue is going to lead you to your plan. And you're not just going to be up there in the heavens dreaming about one day and then 20 years later, you haven't done anything about it. Right.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely.
So you are a very busy person. You got many things running at the same time, as do all of our authors. How do you write a book with everything that's going on, and how has the Author Incubator helped you get 2 books done while doing everything else?
Amazing. The Author Incubator has a plan because they have a system, because you need a plan and a system, I believe, to be successful in anything. So thank God for you, Dr. Loria, for living your truth, allowing people like me to live my truth. Your system is awesome. However, writing a book is not for the weak of heart, right? Come on, you got to have something like an idea or a thought, not just again pie in the sky. I really thought
and that mission. I think that mission piece is a big part of it too.
You have to have a mission. I know for me, I wanted to write, but the pandemic, working virtually, our whole team was working virtually. And I was like, really? It's time to write another book? Where is that time? And then I had one of my colleagues said, but you already have your ideal reader. My niece had called me about wanting to run a business, and I had to kind of walk her through. And once I got my ideal reader, i.e. the system that the Author Incubator uses, it was not a piece of cake, but the road is laid out. You know, I don't want anybody to think that it's easy peasy. I heard somebody say 23 hours straight. But that mission and that vision and that value you have for you and the team. I've had Corey as an editor before. I heard his name, but this time ever, who is new to you guys. Oh my God, he wasn't new, right? He really told the line with the editing part, and I was doing major renovations in my house. I thought I could live in my house, and then I got flooded out of my house, and then with the editing part. And Trevor didn't miss a beat. I didn't miss a beat at all. I was late a couple times, but I didn't miss a beat. And it all got done. But that plan and that system, no matter what happens, right? When you have a plan and you have a system, no matter what comes, what may, you find your way throughout it because you had a plan to start with.
Yep. 100%. I think that's totally true. I love this book. I love your ideal reader. And there's something so powerful about being able to, because so many, as business owners, so many people want to pick our brains. Hey, can I just pick your brain? Can I just have coffee? And now you've got the answer. Here's the book. Read it. This is my answer. This is what I say over coffee. If you want to know what Claudette Yarbrough would say over coffee, you can get Guerrilla Startup 2. Do you have it there?
It's packed away somewhere because I've been moving a lot too, but I definitely had it in my last place, but I'm in a smaller place. And
we're all reading Christine Craft's book about moving because all of us are moving, but Guerrilla Startup is on Amazon. You can get it now and you will have the unique steps to run and sustain your business. Claudette Yarbrough, congratulations on book number 2.
Thank you.
Well, next up is the author of The Financial Freedom Formula, Millionaire Secrets to Build Your Wealth, Jennifer Vavrica. Jennifer, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
Wonderful.
So we talked earlier with Maria Ellis about starting early, working with people in their 20s on starting their financial freedom journey. you've got the formula here to building wealth. And that's where your focus is. Let's talk about the Financial Freedom Formula and who this book is for.
Okay, great. So this book is primarily it's geared towards entrepreneurs, people that are having success in business, but they're looking for that extra thing. They're making good money. They're paying a lot of money out everywhere, right? When you get business, the bigger you get, sometimes you've got a lot of places that it's just flowing through you instead of, landing. So I go really deep into tools that are used by the elite. So they're maybe not common knowledge to your everyday financial planner or even your accountant, your business accountant. So I just go deep into some of the tools that are used to really help successful people to build their wealth.
Is the answer put 3% into a 401k with every paycheck?
Absolutely not. Not in my opinion. I'm sure
that was my first financial advice. I got my first job and I remember everyone sitting me down and saying, put in the full 3% because they'll match it.
Yep.
And then every month I got my statement and it just seemed to go down. I was like, I don't understand how this works.
Right. It's such a great idea, right? Put the money where you can't get to it for, till you're 59 and a half, basically, unless you want to pay a penalty. There's all these things. I see a big problem in the country with financial education, and the pandemic kind of really highlighted some issues for entrepreneurs. Because if your business is running just kind of trucking along, but you don't have your plan in place, something like the pandemic, obviously nobody could have seen this coming. However, my clients that have followed my advice actually they were this is scary, but they weren't oh my God, I'm going to lose everything. Right. So it was a whole different state of mind. Obviously I had a lot of conversations with a lot of clients that I've worked with before and new clients. But again, it's when you have the system in place, you're kind of ooh, this isn't comfortable, but I'm not freaking out. I know that I'll be okay on the other side, regardless of who gets elected or what happens or how long we're shut down for, right? All these things, because you just got that foundation there that's solid. And yeah, okay, obviously we all have our opinions of what we want to happen, but that piece is taken care of.
Yep. I remember, I think it was March when there was the huge stock market crash.
Yeah.
And I didn't even touch anything. I just kept investing. I didn't touch anything. And now all those losses are back. And obviously it's not going to always work that way and you can't guarantee results. But the thing that I had was a plan. I knew what I was going to do and how those decisions were being made. So I had already pre-decided, because I think it's if you decide in the moment, you're going to panic sell or panic buy or panic whatever. And I think that's one of the biggest things why people need support, maybe even women more than men. Because
I think we're set up that way, right? We're set up that way to just be a little bit of a less of an advantage. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, there's less education, less expectation, less being passed down from our mothers because we, didn't learn it. And so having people like you, like Maria, some of the other, Mary Stirk, another one of our authors, people in the financial freedom space that are women helping women.
Yeah.
Not to say we wouldn't help guys too, but it's a totally different, we've talked about doulas here and just the art of midwives and doulas helping other women, passing on those birth secrets. Well, there are financial secrets that just women haven't been as exposed to. So I think your work is so important. This is book number 2 for you in this space. You are a busy CFO and entrepreneur, but I know that this is a passion for you to get that message out to women.
Absolutely.
So I so appreciate that. we have worked together now for like, I think 1.5 years or so.
Yep.
And we're sharing a sisterhood in our mentorship with Marianne Williamson. So
Yes.
I thought I might give you a chance to comment on what this 1.5 years has been like, what working with Marianne has been like, what being a part of the Author Incubator family has been like for you.
Wow. So I know a couple of the other authors touched on it a little bit, but for me, in the different roles that I play, I've been involved with real estate investing for 20 years. So I've got, sometimes it takes more of my time. Sometimes it takes less. I've got my financial business. I've just got a lot of stuff going on. And the system that you have in place is out of this world. Like, it's phenomenal, because for me, it's in bite-sized chunks. So I can sit down, focus, what is it that I need to do? And I can check the box and move on to the next thing. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm not like some of the other authors where once in a while you'll miss a day or 2 or 3 or 4. And then you're like, oh shit, I need to catch up. But then you do, right? Because again, it's bite-sized chunks. So you can sit down and you can, if you need to cram a little bit, you sit down and you do that. So for me, being busy, always got a lot of stuff going on. It's just been the perfect thing. And it's also like so rewarding and so satisfying, because in my heart, I love helping people. That's like the core of why I do what I do. And before, I don't even think you know this, but before working with you in 2013, I wrote my first book. Nobody knows about it because I didn't know how to market it. I didn't know how to get into people's hands. So I was never able to help the people that I was wanting to help because nobody knew about the book. So your system and everything that you've put together. And again, Natasha, I have to put a shout out to her. Fabulous, amazing. She's so spot on and so meeting me where I was. If I was having a great day or having oh man, I'm behind and how do I do this? So anyways, just the whole team and the whole system, everything that's there is top notch. It's completely, I can't say enough good things. It would take us, nobody wants to hear me rant and on and on and on about how great the team is. Marianne Williamson, of course, brings just a completely fresh, different perspective. I, like you, am business focused, go. And she kind of puts this little spin on just centering yourself and being, which we all need, because then when you get that balance of being able to just quiet yourself and quiet your mind and know that everything's great and, a prayer. And then when you go back to the world and you're okay, and then you're just spot on so much more than you were before. So it's just a perfect marriage, working with you and working with her, the similarities and the total differences, because I tend to be more like you are on a day-to-day basis, right? Tell people what to do, where to go. We got these things to check the list. And so bringing that other kind of balance in has really helped me to just center and ground and just be so much more effective with helping the people that I'm here to help.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I will say my favorite part of your journey has just been getting to know you personally. I have a business where everyone that I agree to work with, I would want to be friends with and hang out with all the time. But I'm lucky that I've gotten to do a little bit of that with you, and I look forward to much more to come. You're an amazing person and doing such incredible work. So I appreciate you.
Yep, I appreciate you as well. Thank you.
This is the thing that I want to share with you about the Author Incubator community, is that it's just incredible, brilliant people who are committed to making a difference. One of our authors was an amazing guy named Ramses Rodriguez. In fact, I said to him the same thing I just said to Jennifer Vabrica, which is, I could hang out with you every day. And now I get to. He is one of one of my best friends and one of the amazing people that keeps the author incubator going. He's our program director. He leads all of our author success. We have some more authors, some audio books we want to share with you, and some more brand new books. So I'm going to ask him to do the next batch of interviews. I'm so excited to hear what he has to say. So I'm going to pass the baton to my partner in creation, Ramses Rodriguez, and he is going to do the next set of interviews. So take it away, Ramses.
Well, Dr. Angela, thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, I'm the program director here, and I'm so happy to kick off this next set of authors. Like she said, this is the first month we have this many authors, so we just decided to divvy it up and just introduce you to another batch right now with me. And so I'm so happy to introduce you to another few authors who are ready to launch today their books and their messages out into the world. Now, before I introduce you to our first person on this side of the interview, I want to introduce to you and speak the name and the title of the book of a few people who couldn't join us today. So the first author I want to introduce is Denise Anderson, and she's the author of Daddy Issues, The Guide to Heal Your Anger and Pain Towards Your Father. Also, we have Dr. Jessica Drummond. She is the author of Clinician to Coach: Secrets to Building Your Successful Health Coach Practice. We also have the author of Holy Shit, I'm a Gifted Misfit by Dr. J.J. Kelly. And we also have the author of Inner Peace by Catherine Sherwenka. Belinda Zilberman is the author of Love the One You're With, a couple's guide to surviving through times and falling in love over and over again. And that is the list of authors who weren't able to join us today, but we want to make sure that if any of those titles resonated with you, that you go ahead and pick up their copy of their book for free for this limited time. So like that, you can read their book, be inspired by their message, or have the ability to reach out to them directly. All the socials are making them accessible nowadays, so feel free to reach out. So now, live with us here, we have our first guest on this second set of interviews with me is the author of Are We the Reason I'm Not Getting Pregnant? The Fearlessly Fertile Method for Clearing the Blocks Between Your Relationship and Your Baby, Roseanne Austin. Roseanne, so nice to have you here. Welcome.
It's so good to be with you, Ramses.
Oh my goodness. So, wow, you're a second-time author with us, and you decided to really dive in deep into this Fearlessly Fertile Method. And I think a lot of us want to hear what that means, especially now, where in the time of pandemics, people are trying to get pregnant, or maybe, I mean, tell us a little bit about your book, because it's really intriguing and it seems really relevant to us right now.
Thank you. And so, Ramses, my work is about helping women cover their bases, mind and body, so they can be sure that they are doing everything they can to get pregnant. And the women I work with are struggling with fertility. And through my coaching practice, I noticed a pattern that when we're trying to get the mindset piece of the fertility puzzle in, one of the areas that a lot of women miss is what's going on in their relationship. Because if the relationship is not solid, there can be some very serious blocks to welcoming your baby. So this book is definitely my boldest work to date. And so I really wanted to focus on this topic of relationships while struggling with fertility, and how to not only leverage your relationship to help you call in that baby, but to make sure that the foundation for your family is solid.
That's amazing. So, you know, how could someone tell if your book is for them? So they're going maybe to fertility specialists, or I mean, how do they know that they want to reach out to you specifically about the relationship with respect to fertility? How would they know your book is appropriate for them?
Well, if they're trying all the lotions, potions, treatments, diets, healers, and nothing's working, they definitely want to come to me.
Well, that's amazing. And so tell us how this is an extension of your first work, because I know your practice, just from working with you and talking to you over the years, oh my God, it's been like a long time, right?
Yes, it's been a very long time.
How has this book become an extension of your work maybe, or how has it affected your practice?
Well, it's the next step. So
Okay.
my first book, Am I the Reason I'm Not Getting Pregnant? The Fearlessly Fertile Method for Clearing the Blocks Between You and Your Baby, was about working on yourself. And once you have the foundation for yourself, you can, in a really intelligent and thoughtful way, start looking at your relationship. So the first book is the foundation. The second book is taking it to the very next level.
Oh, and I love that. And I love that it's the Fearlessly Fertile Method, which suggests a method, and it suggests that there's kind of a systematic way to do this. It doesn't have to feel super scary. Is this implied correctly? Am I reading that right?
Yes, because before I became a coach, I was a prosecutor in the state of California for almost 10 years. So even though I don't practice law anymore, there is the very logical and linear part of me that likes to deliver otherwise esoteric seeming ideas in a really logical and linear way, because I work with women who are lovably type A, control freaky professionals who want a recipe. And so what we've done in this book is really give an approachable and dynamic way for women to be looking at their relationships, specifically at a time when it seems like their life is really out of control. Like, do I really need to be looking at my relationship while I'm trying to conceive, have a job in the middle of a pandemic? Yes, you can. And we've made it really, really simple, straightforward, but still extremely effective.
Wow, that's brilliant. And I think it's especially now when people are so confronted with their relationship dynamics, it's like they don't have a choice but to look at it. It's nice to know that there could be a very linear step-by-step way to kind of take inventory, if I'm hearing you correctly, in a way that could be easy and can get you the results you're looking for, which is
yes,
fertility, baby, life, which is so beautiful. Speaking of bringing life into this world, this is your second book, right?
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about your process here, birthing this second version, this extension of your work. In what way was that easier, difficult? Did writing a second book make it easier? Tell us a little bit about your experience with us here on the second iteration of your work.
Well, I'm telling you, the writing the second book was just as exciting as the first. And I really have to hand it to the team at the Author Incubator. This process was so seamless. My creativity was celebrated, my message was celebrated, and it was really great to, again, much like the way I like to communicate with people, it was presented in a very logical and linear way. I had support that was just phenomenal every step of the way. A part of me worried whether or not the second book would be as great as the first. And I have no doubt in my mind it is, with the support of the Author Incubator.
Oh, that's brilliant. And did anything creep up for you? Did any doubt, or did it just flow easy this second time around?
Well, I got to be even more myself in the second book. I had the confidence of having a book out there, and I was able to build on that and really express myself even more freely. That's why I say it's probably my boldest work out there. So it's such a pleasure to work with you guys.
And, I get the benefit of hearing your testimonial and your success. And I want you to speak a little bit about how this book has actually helped you and your practice grow, because I see it so beautifully developing and blossoming. Tell us a little bit about how the book has actually helped position you to reach these aspiring parents. Tell us about that.
I mean, so basically my coaching practice is on, 6 of 7 continents now. And I'm serving women from the Middle East and Qatar all the way to Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Canada, of course, here in the States, all over Europe, Singapore. It's taken my message and like blown it up. So working, with you guys and having a book and 2 books now has really just given me the opportunity to have the impact and the voice that I always wanted. So thank you.
Oh my God, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Roseanne. Listen, do you have your cover? If you want, go ahead and show it. Look, it's the author, Roseanne Austin, the author of our We the Reason I'm Not Getting Pregnant, the Fearlessly Fertile Method for Clearing the Blocks Between Your Relationship and Your Baby. Congratulations on your 2nd book. Wow.
Thank you, Ramses.
Next, we have the author of Flow, the devotional for grown folks by Pam Reed. Pam, this is your 3rd book with us. Congratulations, and thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Ramses. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wow, listen, I have seen you grow and develop and do such important work. And the title here speaks so clearly. It says Flow, the devotional for grown folks. And I want you to tell us, because I know what a devotional is, what exactly is a devotional for grown folks?
Well, I'm glad that you feel like you know what a devotional is because, right? So the devotional for grown folks is very different. Now, I will tell you that it's not rated R, but it's certainly not rated G. I mean, in this book, we address a host of things and not your typical, right? We keep it really real. We're very grounded. We know that life happens and life happens in such a way where it's not always pretty. And so FLOW is an acronym that stands for Feel, Love, Over, Worry. And so in this book, we're not just feeling love over worry, we're feeling love over withdrawal. We're feeling love over worthlessness. We're feeling love over weariness and weakness and wrongdoings. We're feeling love over the kinds of things that people deal with every day. And what I didn't know is that there's a W word for almost everything that anyone would go through in life.
Wow. So what is an example of someone who sees the title of your book and is having some kind of maybe worry or some kind of flow issue? How do they know your book will be applicable to them, maybe in their problem, in their situation? How does the flow process or method or the concept apply to this person?
Well, Ramses, every single thing that we do, everything that we say, everything that we feel, it starts right here, right? With our mind and with the thought. And so when thoughts around grief creep up, from the loss of a loved one or something specific, something significant in our lives, it could be the thought of pain from betrayal or some wrongdoing, or maybe it's the feelings of regret from our past choices and decisions, right? Or maybe it's just feelings around just being anxious for preparing for an interview, or being anxious about starting something new or extending ourselves beyond our comfort zone, right? Whenever any of those kinds of feelings crop up, flow is an opportunity to replace that, to replace it with love. Feel love over whatever it is. Feel love over whomever it is. And so what really is the love, right? And so for some people, it may be something different, but in flow, it's the love of God, right? Because God is love. And so you can replace all of those feelings of worry and concern and worthlessness and being in the wilderness, or maybe you're in a season of weeding where God's pruning you, right? He's getting rid of some of those people and some things in your life. Maybe it's waffling, right? Where it's indecisiveness and you don't understand that being indecisive means that it's spilling over into other areas of your life. There are countless things that people can replace. And here it is, it's all about love. And in the Flow book, there are some very specific, practical things to use to replace it. And my hope is that whenever someone hears the word flow, whenever they see the word flow, just love just comes to mind. The love of God is just the first thing that comes to mind. Or maybe they ask themselves a question, Ramses. Maybe they say, you know what, wait a minute. In this situation, have I invited God into this situation? Have I invited God into the everyday details of my life? That is my hope with this book.
I love that. And you know, you speak to something super relevant in today's world. A lot of people are experiencing grief, and you mentioned on that a little bit. And, you know, if I'm thinking, you know, there's a lot of people who almost feel they don't want to burden someone by bringing up their grief, right? Is this something that your book would also help with?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, people don't really talk about it much, but everyone, and I do mean everyone, has a certain tolerance level for someone else's pain, someone else's grief. I mean, you see it, right? You're hurting, and you're leaning on people, and you're leaning on people, and you're needing people, and they're there for a time. Right. And then sometimes you need other things, other resources. You know, this devotional, the devotional for grown folks, is not meant to replace your Bible. No, it's an accompaniment, right? It's that thing that will help provide encouragement and inspiration and give you the motivation to, again, replace those very heavy feelings, even anxiety that, you know, some people feel almost every day for one reason or another. This is a book that there are stories, there are scriptures, there's a strategy. And in all of that, you can find yourselves in a place where, you know what, I can do this. I can get to this place, and you will see very, very seriously, you will see how you can go from A to B to C. I'm not talking about from A to Z. I'm talking about one step at a time, because whenever you're going through something challenging, this is, you know, yes, God is still in the business of miracles. Yes. But there's a practical approach here. And I think that if you practice flow, like I've done, you know, I go back to my days of being a little girl. And I remember leaning on the side of my bed every night. It was a twin bed. I was 9 years old. And I would always pray about the same thing over and over again. And that was just asking for forgiveness for not being perfect. And that was just like, no one ever told me that we weren't designed or created to be perfect, right? So things happen and life happens. But when you don't know that, and it spills over into your adult life, you know, sometimes that works in business and entrepreneurial ventures, but it doesn't always work when it spills over into relationships where the expectations are just way too high. And there's not a real good understanding of how to address some of the difficult things that we deal with. And flow helps you do that. Flow is a reminder that, you know what, I want to flow through life. I want things to be smooth. I want things to be peaceful. I want things to just be steady. And they're not always that way, but I can respond that way.
Right.
I can live that way. It's all a choice.
I love that. I love that so much, especially since you're dedicating it to the adult who needs the flow, right? Because adulting has been kind of tough, I'm not gonna lie, lately. So it's so beautiful that you're doing this divinely inspired work. Now, speaking of flow though, this is actually your third book. So how has this process been different the third time around here with us, the Author Incubator? How is your third book?
Well, first of all, it is just as exciting as my first book. It's a work that you know is going to be meaningful, that is meaningful, a work that you know is going to make a difference in other people's lives and in the world. You just know that. But I have to tell you, this was different in that I wrote this book during a pandemic. Right? I wrote this book during a pandemic, which for me was like being on a sabbatical with God. So that made it very different in itself, because not only do I know that this book will make a difference for others, it's made a difference in me. I mean, as I was writing it, there was some transformation and some things that were going on internally. So that was beautiful. Not only the pandemic, but all the civil unrest and injustice and just the pain associated with that, and virtual school for children. I mean, there was so much going on. But with the Author Incubator, you know, you learn early on, I learned with my first book, that life happens. life happens. And so, and drama happens, and you still need to write your book, and you still need to meet the deadlines. You still need to do all the things. So the process and the strategies created with the Author Incubator, I didn't change a thing. I drew from everything that I learned the first time around, the second time around, and I just implemented all of those things and was able to get my book done in a wonderful way. And I think too, I'm different. I'm different from my first book. I'm different from my second book. My life is different. My business is different. How I engage and interact is different. I've had people private message me and DM me asking, how is it working with the Author Incubator? I want to write a book. I'm thinking about it. So I always say 100% of the time, if you want to go from thinking about it to actually doing it, then you definitely want to call and reach out to the Author Incubator. So hopefully that actually happens so that more people can get their work out there.
Well, it was so lovely seeing you. I love the cover right behind you. There you have it, folks. Flow, the devotional for grown folks. And I'm glad that this was able to be a big part of your communion with God and this third book and masterpiece. Congratulations, Pam.
Oh, thank you, Ramses. Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, folks. We're going from flow now, and we're going to go into the author of Impact Pharmacist. Start your own wellness practice and leave your retail pharmacy job behind. It's co-authored by two amazing folks, Asha Pai Bohannon and Eric Bohannon. Asha actually wrote a first book, and this is your second book, right? And so now you co-authored here with Eric. Tell us about your book. This is exciting.
Yes, thank you, Ramses, for having us. We're super excited to be here. So I just want to start with a little bit about my journey and how I got here. So my first book is called To Medicate or Not. That is the question, because I wanted to start my own holistic wellness practice. I spent 20 plus years in a retail pharmacy job, what I call bound by the golden handcuffs, and not really being able to do with my career and my life what I wanted it to look like. I wanted to be helping people, making an impact in people's lives and their health and wellness. I wanted to be a mom and a wife and all the best versions of myself, and never did any of it. And that's where it all kind of began. And so then when I did my first book with the Author Incubator, that's what I sprung into. I didn't spring into it the right way though. So that's where the whole, that's where it came into. I sprung into it, and then I joined locked arms with my partner in life and partner in now business to really do this the right way.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that it sprung out from clarity. And I love that your new book came from, oftentimes people want to do this and not know that they want to create a business from their book, or in your case, from a pre-existing practice, but you had more clarity, and it's so beautiful to see. I saw you develop it in the trenches, and that it came from a point of, here's what I learned and here's what I'm going to do to take the baton. So I love that it's called Start Your Own Wellness Practice and Leave Your Retail Pharmacy Job Behind. Tell us about that, because that seems like you're speaking directly to someone. What is this leave your retail pharmacy job behind part? It feels like there's a story there.
There is. So, when I talk about the golden handcuffs, a lot of times that's what getting into retail pharmacy is about. It's a really good paycheck, right? But you don't end up doing with your career or your education what you thought, and you get into a lot of burnout. And there is just so much of that, especially for us moms who, once we start having families and things like that, other priorities come into play. And so leaving that retail pharmacy job behind sounds easy, but it's hard to do, and until you have a clearer picture of what it is that you want to go do and the impact that you want to make, and the legacy that you want to leave. And so that's where this came from. And I'm going to tell you, as a pharmacist, we're very, as a whole, I'm going to say this, we're pretty type A. We like structure, we like organization. No. And so just jumping into something doesn't necessarily feel right or feel good. So
talk about that a little, because this is important that you bring up this whole burnout. A lot of people are going to assume just because there's the paycheck, that's the end and the most fulfilling thing ever. So what does burnout start to look for the person you wrote this book for? What does it look like before they're like, I think I should leave this? And how do they arrive at wellness practice?
Yeah, so it starts looking like stress. Your body is starting to fail you. Your relationships, with your marriage, your kids, they're starting to fail you. You feel very stuck in what you're doing, and you almost like a box is around you, and you have no way to get out. You're suffocating, and you lie awake at night trying to figure out, what do I do next? What is my next move? And wellness comes into this because that's the way we're trained. We're trained to help people with their health, right? But when you feel like you're stuck between four walls and it's all around, here, take this medication and this medication and this medication, you feel more like you're feeding people's illnesses versus actually helping them get and stay well. And so a lot of pharmacists that I talked to over the past few years are experiencing exactly what I was experiencing, all the anxiety and the stress and just the overwhelm of what we think we should be doing versus what we really want to be doing with our lives, with our profession, with our career. And so that's where the premise to all of this started. And then, like I said, I joined with Eric because Eric is the MBA, the business guy. I'm gonna let him just say a couple words about what his part in this is about.
Yeah, how do you kind of step into this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, she stole the words right out of my mouth. I mean, she's my partner in life, but also in business now together. She has started multiple businesses along the way up until this last one. And she was off there doing it on her own, and finally she comes to me and says, hey, I would really like your help on this. So my background, number one, I have an MBA. I understand the business aspects, but I've been launching and creating service-based businesses now for 10 plus years for Fortune 50 companies. So this is my background and expertise. I know what to do here, and I know how the process that somebody should go through in creating a business or creating a service-based business. And that's what this book gives people, is a very well-defined process. Number one, helping them get out of their own way, getting them in the right mindset, talking about avoiding the biggest pitfalls that most entrepreneurs fall into, right? So we talk through, what are those pitfalls? How do you avoid them? I say this in the book a lot, is a successful entrepreneur is a risk avoider, not a risk taker. So people often think, oh, entrepreneurship, startup, that's really risky, right? And I say, well, no, it's not. The way to do it is be successful by avoiding that risk. So if you've ever wanted to start like a service-based business, especially if you're a pharmacist and you're looking to start maybe like a wellness practice, this book is for you. It has everything you need to know from A to Z, a process in place. Do it the right way, do it with the right steps in mind, and you'll get there.
Eric, that's brilliant. So what I'm hearing from the both of you is you have the exact kind of steps or the skills that you would need from the pharmacy, and then the skills from building a business, a service-based business, and you've combined it into this work that's going to help you take advantage of both and actually launch a business.
Yes. Yeah, we actually get people to launch their business by the time they're done working through it with us through our program. That's a cool thing, right? So Asha and I work together in this with our clients. She deals with a lot with the mindset, the clinical aspects of being a pharmacist. And I'm doing a lot of the business oriented stuff, competitive analysis, all that stuff that you need to do to figure out what you're going to go do. And then we'll figure out what it is you're going to offer your clients. What need are you fulfilling, right? What impact are you having in this world today? Who are you helping out in this world? And that's what we do. And that's what this book leads people through.
I love that, especially in the culture of so much information. It's nice to know, hey, we can find your strengths and help you build something in a very clear, systematic way. It's brilliant. I love it. But speaking of building things, this is your second book, Asha, and you've done. So I'd like to hear a little bit about the journey, taking an experience, learning from it, and writing another one. Did anything come up for you? Did it become challenging, or were you worried at all? Or tell us how the process was for you in this second iteration of an extension of your work.
Yeah, thank you. So the first time around, it was like this nervous excitement. I had no idea. I'd always wanted to write a book, and I had this nervous excitement. The process is seamless. I honestly, I couldn't believe how quickly I wrote my first book, and I went into it not having any idea what I was going to write about, to be honest with you, the first time. Second time was a lot easier, to be honest, because I knew exactly what I wanted to write about, and I had already been through the process. And so this time I actually got to enjoy that process a little bit more, right? Because I got to experience it, and I had already been through it. And then I also got to do it with Eric. So it made it a little bit more fun for me to watch his journey through this, you know? So, but I did not run into any blocks. It was very seamless, and I'm very attached to this message. So it was very easy for me to see how it needed to be laid out, because I have been there, I've experienced it, and it flowed. I love that word that that Pam just used, but yeah, the flow just came out, and it was a seamless process. So
beautiful, and it shows. I mean, take the transferable skills from Asha and the coaching and the business skills, and they combine it beautifully in this work. It's called Impact Pharmacist: Start Your Own Wellness Practice and Leave Your Retail Pharmacy Job Behind. Beautiful cover right behind you. Congratulations to the both of you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ramses and the team. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
We have loved every minute. Thank you so much.
So beautiful. And there you go. We go from Impact Pharmacist, and now we're going to go into something that's also relevant in our culture of the digital age. I think that a lot of us are really having to step up in a different kind of way in the culture of technology. Certainly people are working from home, and this book is probably something that's going to spike your interest if you've left the brick and mortar to work right from your home desk. I have here the next book I want to introduce. Is called The Art of Speaking in Front of the Camera: From Fear to Confidence on Video in the Digital Age. Lilia Sixos, congratulations, welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Ramses. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my God, I see this is book number 2, and we're going to talk about that in a moment.
Exactly.
I want to hear, listen, this sounds so applicable. How did you decide that you wanted to write this book right now?
Well, everything started this year at the beginning of the month of the March, I think, when I started being in quarantine. I started talking with some friends, professional people, coaches, nutrologists, and we were talking about what are you going to do if this time prolongs and you cannot see person to person your clients. And many of them were very afraid to try to go online. And many of them didn't have a web page or a Facebook professional page. And I was very worried about them, because many of the women I know are so good in what they do that it would be very sad that they stop their careers just because they don't feel confident in front of the camera. So I use all the experience I had in my career as an actress, as a theater director, and as acting teacher, and I say, I think I can help them to teach them some easy techniques, and
I love that.
Let them know that they can shine on camera.
I love that. I love that. And I got to see your work firsthand as you were developing it. So this is probably the best time to talk about your first book and how it led into this one. So tell us the title of your first book, and then how did it lead into really honing in your message for developing a way to be successfully in front of a camera?
Well, my first book, The Art of Raising an Artist, the way I hold the space for my daughter Aline to be an actress, because that's what she wanted to do. show me the way to put all those knowledge together to help parents in that case. Now, with the second book, I decided to do a very similar, create a journey between fear to confidence. So my goal was help the readers to go from fear to be on camera, to develop the confidence enough to overcome that fear. And during the book, I have many fun things to learn. For example, do you need to learn? You need to learn how to use your voice, your breathing. You need to learn how to dress yourself, how to use the right colors for you to shine, how to prepare your space, and a little bit of lighting, not very complicated things because I'm not a technological person at all. So just the little things that you need to really make your presence online to shine. Some acting techniques, how to use your voice, how to use your hands, for example, how to connect with the people. Just imagine who are you talking with, and overcoming the mental thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very huge thing that creates fear is what you are telling to yourself. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not good enough. So working with the inner voice.
I love that. And you know what? I want to know a little bit more about, because you actually, I remember this moment when you were writing this second book that you were like, oh my God, people already want to work with me. I think they just want to hire me. I remember that moment. And what were they saying? What was a problem not having confidence was causing them in maybe their career or their digital presence? What problems were they having because they didn't have a solution to gaining the confidence?
They were hiding.
Okay.
That was the main problem. They was hiding. They were waiting to start to translating their profession into a new situation. They stopped getting money. They start losing clients, whatever their professions were, they were doing. And they felt like all those years of overcoming the difficulties to get a good level in their professions was already lost. So I was working, I was studying, I was doing my profession for 10, 20 more years. And now it's like, I don't know how to overcome this obstacle. And they felt so sad and so unempowered. So this is getting them again on the arena. And it's amazing how they rediscover themselves.
And you're absolutely right, Lilia, because here you have a successful business person or careerist, and they have it all figured out. They go into a business, they maybe have figured out how to do a boardroom talk, but here they are all of a sudden stripped of their comfort zone, and now they're getting basically stage fright on camera. And like you said, they're losing clients, their performance is going down. So it's actually brilliant work. I'm not shocked at all that you immediately started getting people wanting to work with you from just talking about your process, writing the second book. It was amazing to watch. And I do want to ask you about that, believe it or not, your second book. Do you have any shout outs on writing your second book? What happened? How did it work out? How did your process for birthing this new book happen for you with the Author Incubator this time?
You know, it was very funny that I was doing in practice many things I put in the book before I start writing the book. So for example, at the beginning of March or April, I start doing master classes, via Zoom, talking about imposter syndrome. And a lot of people came because they felt that who I am to do this, who I am to show myself in front of other people, or stage fright. another masterclass I did, and a lot of people again show up because much more people that I imagine have that fear, and the stage fright goes into this, not just into the stage, but now translate into the camera. So all the practice I was doing during the first months of the year and all the stories of people overcoming that fear with me in real time, I put some of those stories on the book because the change can be very fast. So you can overcome those fears very fast as soon as you have the techniques and the right mindset to be in front of the camera and to feel that you have a lot to share with the people. They need what you can give to them. The world today needs people who serves with open heart, and many people are just waiting a little bit of support and teaching and guidance to be ready to be on video. And now we know that that's the way to do that.
I know we need this message out, and I saw the way you passionately brought this to the table, and I saw how you leaned into the team's coaching and developing the second book. It's just been such an amazing process to witness your second time around. I think I remember you telling me on a call at one point, saying something like, oh my God, it became so clear after my first book, this book had to follow. And it's just so amazing to see that you even had it tested. People were asking and hungry for your message once you were able to package it up that way. So congratulations. I see that you put into practice. You have a beautiful background, your colors pop, and look at that beautiful cover of your book. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Lilia Sixtos, the author, second-time author, but the author of The Art of Speaking in Front of the Camera, From Fear to Confidence on Video in the Digital Age. Congratulations, Lilia.
Thank you, Ramses, and all the team of Author Incubator. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So welcome, so welcome. And there you have it, something that is another message that is impacting right now people in our new world, I want to say new normal, but our new world, right? And I want to bring to you another person who is the author of Listen to Yourself, The Brown Girl's Guide to Trusting Your Intuition. We're going from external to internal now. I want to bring to you Cindy A. Gunraj. Welcome, Cindy. Congratulations. You're also on a second book with us. Tell us about your book, Listen to Yourself.
Yes, I love how you said we're going from external to internal, because that is so it.
Right.
So this is a great, I know, right? This book, it's really, I was doing this work before I wrote this book, just like some of the other folks have said. It's like helping, I was helping people in my coaching business recognize their intuitive talk, their signals that they miss, that that is talking to them in different ways. Wow. It could be the hairs standing up.
Signals.
Like, for example, if they're dating after divorce and they're going on a date and their gut's like, ooh, when they meet that person, and it's like, well, listen to that, and then it's like seeing a pattern, because the thing about, I'm just so passionate about listening to yourself, because that is how you save yourself from a lot of mess.
And I want to talk about that. I love that you're saying that right now, because there's something very interesting about your title. The subtitle says The Brown Girl's Guide to Trusting Your Intuition. I want you to speak a little bit about that. What problems or troubles are our brown girls, our beautiful brown girls, running into, and what unique problems are they facing that they do need to be trusting their intuition? Can you speak about that?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I feel like we all go through some level of self-doubt, especially, you know, when we're put in a challenging situation where it could be, you know, we have to negotiate, you know, we're getting back out there dating after divorce, and you know, and you're like, oh, you know, am I worthy enough? Or, you know, all this stuff comes up. And what I found, Ramses, is brown women, they have that stuff, but they have a whole other layer as well. And that is like, they, you know, most of the time they grow up in this close-knit cultures that a lot of stuff is asked on, and put on them. And like, for example, they may be asked to, okay, you know, help out the family in this way, you know, do these, go help mom do these grocery runs, go, you know, and it's beautiful, it helps the family. But what ends up happening, I find, is a lot of areas start to get missed from listening to your own like voice, your own like.
Yeah, it sounds like you're helping them overcome that guilt trip, the things that are imposed upon you. I kind of seen that happen.
Yes, yes, because, you know, I call it the external noise, you know, because that is part of the other layer, is like, okay, you know, how do I make, you know, mom and dad happy? How do I make auntie happy? But at the same time, get my needs met, you know? And so it's like a dance to discover that, especially if that wasn't cultivated early on.
I love that. And, you know, I know you, so I know you were thinking of someone in mind when you were writing this book. And so when they're trying to overcome this kind of the impositions, the expectations are put upon them, what issues are your brown girls, that brown girl you imagined when you wrote this, what issue is she ending up running into by not having listened to her intuition or overcoming the expectations? What does her life end up looking like? What does she run into?
Yeah, she's really frustrated.
Okay.
And she's like worries a lot about what other people thinks. You know?
No, I don't know. I might know. So
it's like almost like it starts to feel like a rat race, because it's like you're catering to other people's needs, and you know, you're not listening to your own intuitive pull, so you miss opportunities and you miss your direction, and then you become frustrated.
Yeah. And is she saying things, and I think I heard you talk to this, and I want you to talk about it a little bit here. Is she saying things like, I feel like I'm not doing the right thing yet, or I'm not fulfilled? What is she saying what thought is she thinking that's going to help her realize your book is for her?
She's going to be saying, you know, I'm so frustrated. I just want to make everybody happy. That's what she.
I've heard that. I love that. I love it. I have to laugh because it's something I actually do hear a lot of people saying. It's so true. And, you know, it's been such a beautiful journey to see this come out and this new work that you've developed. And this is your second book with us. So I want you to speak about the process of your second book with the Author Incubator. How was it different?
Oh, this was definitely, I walked the walk of listening to my intuition. You know, I was moving from West Coast to East Coast, and that was on an intuitive pull. It was like, you need to move back to be closer to your family. And my dad, he's going through cancer and stuff. So it's like, I was writing this book as I was making this transition. So there's a lot of beauty in this book for a brown woman who really wants to have that close relationship with their family, as well as that closer walk with trusting themselves.
I love that. And I'm curious to know your exact take on this. How did our process at the Author Incubator help you, being an intuitive, being someone who is brown, how did it support you creating a message that was unique to you in your life, in your perspective?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing it did was provide the structure.
Mm-hmm.
And you need structure. Without structure, nothing happens.
Well, I get it. Yeah, wow. You really leaned into it. You were done, on point, no questions asked. So congratulations on this. I think this is such powerful work in these times. Making high stakes decisions. I can see this impacting your ideal client, reader, person you want to inspire in a very big way. So that's beautiful. Here you guys have it. Listen, it's called Listen to Yourself, the Brown Girl's Guide to Trusting Your Intuition. Cindy Gunraj, congratulations on your next book. Do you have your title, your cover?
Yes, it's right here, and I will bring it up here. Check it out.
Listen to yourself, folks. Beautiful work, Cindy.
Thank you. And thank you to the Author Incubator and their amazing team.
Love that. And congratulations once again. We're going to go into another little deep dive into the soul. I want to introduce you to the author of Soul Places, the Star Child's Cosmic Atlas for Finding Heaven on Earth. Let's see if she's here. There she is, Corinne Piat. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Really excited to have an opportunity to talk about the book.
Oh, I'm very excited to have you here because I have all the questions for you.
Okay.
So let's talk about this. What are soul places, first of all? And tell us if a person needs to know if they're a star child or not to understand.
I know this is a really packed tight with pretty much like an entire epic journey that is my life. This is the book I really needed to be at Author Incubator to write. Soul Places. My journey started in childhood with a longing for a feeling of truly being home that could bring tears, and so it wasn't until last year, I knew I was going to write this book. It wasn't until last year that I started doing interviews and research to find out if I was alone in this, feeling. And I can't, the results were really phenomenal. Who I found, and what world I opened up from there. So this really includes like everything from, so I had like a really strong longing. I cleared that in like a moment with a particular exercise that I include in the book.
Stuff like this, like I feel like I'm not home or I'm maybe in a strange place. Is this kind of what you're talking about? Like when they go in their daily life, they're in their 9 to 5, they're doing life a regular way, but something hasn't settled in where they might feel like outer worldly maybe. Is this kind of the person you're speaking about?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm talking about almost feeling like you were born in the wrong country or that you don't speak the language you're supposed to be speaking. If you ever had the experience of like actually standing in one of those soul places, you'll be hit like a ton of bricks, like, I should be able to read this language on the wall, or I should be able to speak this, or I should know my way around. So it's really a phenomenon, and that there's like a soul's home. What I thought I was going to be writing about was a physical place on Earth, and I do. But what happened during COVID was that I could no longer have a program where we were taking journeys to these soul places. Then I had a meeting with some colleagues, some really intuitive colleagues, and they said, I'm really feeling strongly, you need to take us on a virtual trip. And I'm like, I don't even like virtual trips. I like real trips. I'm super pissed off. Like, I don't want to do that. I didn't like the idea of like website, photography tours or something. And even guided meditation didn't really like satisfy that need to be immersed in a new culture, a new way of being, and a new way of thinking. But one of my colleagues was really persistent, and she said, I don't know why, I need you to take me to Switzerland. So I told her to book on like for Thursday, and I had no idea what I was going to do. That appointment showed up. I was totally unprepared, and what happened was a spontaneous, out of body, interactive astral travel. So yeah, and that all happened like while I was writing my book. It was added a whole other dimension. So when you talked about star child, there's some of us that can identify as star seeds. There's just a connection, a deep personal connection with the stars, whether you're looking at it from an archetypal point of view, or you're looking at it like ancient, your ancient family, your ancient ancestor point of view. Like all of the ancient cultures here refer back to heaven, and their version of these beings. So in this book, I teach like specific ways to call on your spiritual guides to meet.
I ask something like, you're going to have to call this in. You're going to have to be very clear about what that might look like for you. But what issues, if a person or a starseed has not really found their soul place or a way to connect, like you're about to say and share, what ends up happening in their life if they don't pay attention to that calling or to that question or that angst or that longing? What happens in a physical sense to them if they don't listen to that?
Yeah, I know that firsthand. Seriously, do. It's like a withering away. It's depression. It's you just feel like something isn't nurtured. What we're looking for in a home space is like it's coming both home to ourselves and then creating that. We want to manifest it. This book isn't about just going out in the stars and collecting information and feeling good inside. It's about, how do I manifest this? I want to bring back that information. So yeah, it's painful.
Yeah, I could imagine if you you start manifesting all these maybe ailments and depression and everything, it starts to affect a lot of areas. I mean, careers, I could imagine relationships that are affected because, I mean, quite frankly, it sounds like you're describing something that could feel very disoriented until they get some clarity.
Yeah. So what ended up happening after that first travel, I launched a program, like a 1-week intensive astral travel program where I would take small cohorts on one-on-one trips. And the results were like truly astounding. And I did find massive activations and transformation in all of those arenas. It was relationship, it was work, it was crazy cool. Physical health and well-being. Yeah, so there does come a lot, like when you really come into what it feels like to be home, you're like imprinted with what you want to create. And that feeling of that you start out with feeling so separated, it diminishes, it's like goes away, and now you embody this home, and your world starts to change around you.
That's beautiful. And speaking of change, I've seen you change from one book to another book. This is your second one with us, and you speak from a lot of experience and intuition, and it's very beautiful to witness. How has this process at the Author Incubator supported your unique way of wanting to contribute?
That's true. I went through like a metamorphosis with the Author Incubator. When I wrote my first book, I was trying on something new. I was literally just full of rocket fuel, and I didn't know exactly which way to go, and learned how to write a book, which was amazing. And I feel like that first book really contributed. But I had to really dig deep and find, like, unearth that feminine side of me, that one that's really creative, that is willing to go outside of the box, and support that. So when I wrote the second book, I mean, I was already had been given all the tools, but I really came into my voice. And I definitely want to give out a shout out to Erica, my editor, because she held, oh my gosh, she held amazing space for me, because this was a transformation that was happening real time by the end of those chapters. It was a true physical manifesting homecoming. And I think that the book is really packed with that kind of excitement and energy and magic and love, lots of love.
I love that. I'm so glad that the team was able to support you and your beautiful and unique expression of your contribution, quite frankly, to the world that's actually yearning for healing and clarity and direction. I think it's beautiful. Do you happen to have your title cover, your cover of your book here? I'd love for you to show us all your book title. There you go, everyone. Corinne Piat, Soul Places, the Star Child's Cosmic Atlas for Finding Heaven on Earth, Soul Places. Congratulations, congratulations, Corinne. Next, we have the author of The Beautiful Unbecoming, The Ultimate Guide to Life After Spiritual Awakening. Let's see if she's here. She's a second-time author, believe it or not. There she is, Lindsay Tensing, book number 2. Wow, we are really you're one of our another beautifully spiritually connected authors, and I love that you're taking us on this journey today. I want to hear, what is this beautiful unbecoming mean? What is your book about?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And congratulations also, just real quick, to all of the authors. Like when Corinne was speaking, I had goosebumps the entire time. It's such an honor to be amongst this amazing group of people. So thank you to the Author Incubator and Ramses and team for bringing these magical souls together. My book, the second book, The Beautiful Unbecoming, is literally the ultimate guide to life after spiritual awakening. It's a love letter to everybody who feels like they have done everything right and suddenly nothing makes sense to them anymore. The things they did, the people they hung out with, their jobs, all of the things that they thought created them, who helped them become who they were, suddenly doesn't make sense, and they are now unbecoming to really step into who they were always meant to be.
That's beautiful. It's very interesting if you're watching and listening and you've had a spiritual awakening, you probably can relate to this. It's almost like shedding a layer, right? It's like everything is the same. So tell us about what problems in their real practical life are they running into when they are post-spiritual awakening? What does that look like? What issues are they starting to have?
Yeah, beautiful question. I think the biggest challenge that people I've worked with, including myself, after spiritual awakening, it's almost like you're in between. You're not who you used to be, but you're not yet who you are meant to be. And so you're in this really weird in-between space where nothing really makes sense. You feel super alone because nobody talks about this, right? Everybody's like, I got my stuff together and I am good. But when you are in this in-between, this unbecoming, you don't feel that way and you have no one else to talk to about it. So you're realizing that some of the beliefs that you had are no longer your beliefs. Some of your habits, the ways you act and operate in the world are really not the way you want to be showing up, but you have these ingrained beliefs and habits that you don't know necessarily how to undo. And so that's one of the biggest challenges that people face after their spiritual awakening. They're like, whoa, I don't believe in this stuff anymore, but like, what do I do now? How do I do this?
In a practical sense, I've heard of this, and certainly when I had a phase like this, it can affect really big parts of your life, like relationships, jobs. Like, what's your experience in, if you don't address I'm just calling it post-spiritual point.
Yeah.
You can address that, it starts showing up the way you describe, but what ways does it manifest in a physical sense? What owners or relationships or situations or ailments show up in someone's life on a physical, labelable, I made that word
3D world.
Yeah, in the 3D world.
Yeah, it can be anything from you get fired from a job, you get laid off from a job, you have physical scares yourself. I went through kind of back-to-back breast cancer scare followed by emergency gallbladder surgery. Like if you aren't taking the steps to step into away from who you were so you can step into who you are meant to be, relationships can fall apart. Family members suddenly are attacking you. Your best friend may no longer really vibe with you. Your personal romantic relationship may fall apart. You may have those physical ailments pop up, and the less or the more you try to resist it, the louder the universe gets. And it will keep on coming until you finally, all right, I surrender, let's do this thing.
And that's a good point that you're kind of bringing up. For someone who's in the thick of it, of that post-spiritual awakening period, and they're hearing you, they might say something like, this can't be for me. I just had I was dealt a bad hand, and this is just cray cray. How do they know that your work, your message might actually help them become after their unbecoming?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a combination of things. One, if you have been trying all these different things to be in alignment with your life, but you keep hitting roadblocks, you keep running into these physical ailments, you're running into the challenges in the 3D world, that's a big sign that you're not doing the things that are truly in alignment with your soul and your soul's purpose. And so my work in working with me is helping you reconnect with your light. What is it that lights you up? What is it that fulfills you? What is it that makes you shine in this world? And then helping you create the steps, both through mindset, as well as breaking through habits. Talk a lot about neuroscience because I'm a huge nerd. Like,
love it.
Those are the things that we need to do to help you step more fully into it. So a lot of people try different things, right? I'm having a midlife crisis. I'm having a quarter life crisis. I'm having like all of these other existential things that are going on. They may have different names, but they kind of all come down to the same thing.
I love that. That is so powerful. And I know as you were talking about your surgery and everything, I remember this was your situation in your first book, but now you're how was it different? I mean, I want to know how your journey on the second one was a direct correlate from the past. How did we help you get through that here at the Author Incubator?
Yeah, it is such a different experience between the first two books. The first book, The Art of Connected Leadership, was a beautiful expression of my 16 years of leadership in startups to Fortune 500 companies. And through that, as I was in the middle of my spiritual awakening, which I knew that, which is why I wanted to write a book that made a difference. The Author Incubator and team were so supportive as I was going through all of those challenges during my first book, really supporting me to get things done. Marina and Corey, who I worked with on my first book, I also got to work with on my second book. Like, they have been such an incredible support system for both my first book and my second book. And my second book, like, none of the shenanigans happened. It was incredible. It was like all of those blocks were gone from the first one. And I was really able to step more fully into my creative flow. And it just, Marina and Corey were like, okay, what support do you need? What support do you not need? And they gave me exactly what I needed to be able to be, as Pam has been calling it, in flow for this second book. Yeah, it's been incredible. And the team has been amazing.
I love that. And it's been such an amazing journey. Listen, if you feel like you're unbecoming right now in these times, which a lot of us feel we're unbecoming a lot, there you go. There's her cover. I want you to get Lindsay's book now for free. It is only available for a certain period of time. It is definitely called The Beautiful Unbecoming, the ultimate guide to life after spiritual awakening. Congratulations on book number 2.
Thank you.
Amazing. And now we're gonna go from a spiritual awakening, and we're gonna talk about but I want both. The Working Mom's Guide to Creating a Life She Loves, Nina Sossamon Pogue. Book number 2 also. Congratulations and welcome to.
Thank you, Ramses. Appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here.
Love that. I want to ask you to dive right in, but I want both.
I'll just dive right in.
Yeah, but I want both.
Wait, first I'm going to say, what am I, a pirate? I have one earring on and I didn't realize it till just now. I'm going to take this off. Like, that's a thing? Okay.
Both. And who did you write this book for? What is your book about?
I wrote this book for all the hardworking, really smart and aggressive women who work hard at their careers and then get to a point in their life where they feel like they have to give up their career to be a good parent. So this is for all the hardworking moms out there who really don't want to give up their career and want to find out how they can do it both. So throughout my career, so I was an athlete when I was young, and then I was in television for 20 years, and then I've been in tech for 12 years, an executive role in a technology company. And I have met so many young women, and they would come to me often and ask me, how do you do it all? And that's one of those questions that you really don't do it all. There's no such thing as work-life balance. We all figure it out for ourselves. But there's a lot of stories that I told and books I would tell them to read and things I would tell them to think of that would help them. And thank goodness for the Author Incubator, because you guys helped me organize all those thoughts and put it in something that I can hand to them and help them through this process so they can quit beating themselves up and go be awesome.
I love that. And, I want to ask something a little risque, but it's about the, a woman's role and maybe like in a masculine culture, right? Is this a kind of woman that would benefit from your book, that would say, now I have to put up with appearances, not only be the wife, but also be the mom, but also be super in your masculine to be competitive or be taken seriously? Could you speak about that?
It's all in there. Yes. So part of what's a challenge right now is the generation, I start off the book with this, the generation before us could, my mother could be a doctor could be a nurse or a teacher. And then now as little girls, we're told we can be anything. But then as we get older and we become these working women who find success and have big management roles or become an executive, we have the challenge of now who's going to do all the other stuff that was being done. So we really have a generation who's been trying to figure this out. And this book is passed on to the next generation, because you do have to be in a man's world, but you've got to be very careful about what you say. We saw Kamala Harris do that fence just recently, brilliantly, by the way. We have a whole generation of women who are very bright and who are trying very hard to be all that they can be, but do see barriers there. So this book takes you through what exactly does success look like for you, because we're all different, and then how do you navigate some of that? So the parenting piece, because now, my husband did a lot of the cooking and a lot of the parenting, and he helped with the homework, or I got other people to help with those things. It didn't make me a bad parent. My kids do fine. I did fine. I kind of share those lessons throughout there, how you can hand things off and work with someone. I talk about your value at work. How do you step into a boardroom and command attention and be an equal at the table? And I talk about finding your talents. And people say, well, what are your talents? It takes a little bit of introspection to figure out what those are. So I take them through a process of, let's just find where you're a rock star. What is your superpower? We've all got superpowers. And then I go through and talk about resilience, kind of tapping into my first book on resilience and how you keep going even when things get difficult. And then I talk about, the clock ticking and time and how you can look at your life. And I do some math and geek out a little bit on the math and the fractions of time that we're all going through and how we look at time. And then I go through changes and choice management. And this is kind of fun. I take them through, just like if you were in a big company, especially a tech company, when there's a big transition or an acquisition or something, you go through a change management process, and there's a whole month-long process. You know this, you were in this world. There's month-long processes for change management. So I actually took that as an individual and said, okay, you are the CEO of you. Let's go through change management. Let's look at your messaging. Let's look at what you have available to you, what needs work, what doesn't, where do we need to spend more time? Who do we need to maybe put in a different role? So I look at it from that perspective as well. So it's a little bit of all of that. But yes, there is definitely a new generation of women who really don't want to give up their careers. and want to have great success, but do have great pressures at home, and pressures that I didn't even have when I was having kids. There was no Instagram parties. I could wing it. Nobody was looking at my Facebook pictures to see how my parties looked and stuff. There's a whole new level of pressure to be this great parent.
Yeah, I could imagine. And, you know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if there was a specific generation you may have been addressing with this, does one come to mind?
This is the mostly the millennials and Gen Zs. There's about 5 women who I've worked with and mentored. They've worked with me or worked for me, however you want to put that. We always say with, who I've mentored, and I actually took their faces with their cute little families and I put them on my board, and they were my muses as I worked on this book. And their stories I had told them, there are things, challenges they had shared with me. And these are women who now are in their young, like 30 to 35 in there, and they have their life taking off, their career taking off and success at the same time they're being asked to do so much more at home. And then how do you balance that? You feel like you want to do it all, but you're doing none of it right, you know, and so that is who this book is for. And I think there's so many young women out there who can relate to it, and young men. That's not really gender specific. If you want to have success in your career and be a good parent at the same time, the book is for you. I use mom because that's my audience, but it would really help anyone who's trying to be successful. I also talk about looking at your career or your job as if you're an athlete and you're training, you know, that constant training that you have.
I love that. That's very, very, very powerful. And so you mentioned something a little bit earlier about, well, we actually don't do it all often, those who figured it out. In what ways did this program, this process help you write this second book?
It really was. The first book was very cathartic for me. It was a very deep, and it's a much heavier book. It's sort of your, you know, don't let the world beat you anti-suicide book. This one is much more, let me show you how you have great success. And I could not have done this, either one of the books, but especially this one, without the author incubator. One, because we're in the middle of a pandemic and a political season, and my brain is so many other places. But what this group, you and your amazing folks there, did for me is help me organize my thoughts. You know, you have such a great process. It's real simple to kind of, you know, it's like almost doing homework. And I like to have checklists and check things off. So people like me do really well, I think, in programs like this, because you're handing it to me and going, think about this, write this, organize these thoughts this way. And so I really think that was a big part of it. And I talk about some of that in the book too. I pass that along, some of those learnings in this book about how we can organize our thoughts and get the most out of what we're doing. And I truly believe, and your program is a perfect example of this, that a high tide raises all ships, and we need to help each other. So this is my effort to help the generation that's coming up behind me, just like you guys are there to help all of these writers who are coming up after you, who have already written some things. In my foreword for my book, the Who It's To, I don't know if I'll get it exactly right, but I said, this book was inspired, this book began with all of the working moms playing the game of life. And it was written by all the working moms playing Super Mario Brothers who found the cheat codes. And we're handing it off to everybody who's playing Call of Duty right now and still in the game.
I love that. You really are speaking to the millennial generation.
Yeah, so that is what it is, really written for them. And it's funny and it's, you know, snarky in parts, but it's practical stuff you can sit down and do and help you get to a place where you can see what a successful life looks like. The success for you may be different than success for me. Like, I'm fine that I had one earring in. I'm fine if I go to bed without my dishes done. But other people, that's not success for them. So I help people figure out, what does their success feel like?
I love that. Let's see that cover if you do have it. This is, you're seeing it here first, folks, is But I Want Both, the Working Mom's Guide to Creating a Life She Loves. Nina, it's been such a pleasure. If you're looking for how to succeed, how to get the career going, how to do both, have your cake and eat it too. You want to get Nina's book for free right now for a limited time. Go ahead and download it. Nina, it's been such a wonderful experience here.
Great to see you. It's been a wonderful experience for the 2 years I've been with the Author Incubator working on these things too. Cannot say enough good things.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so we're going from career success, getting it both done, to writing a book. This next author is special. She was actually part of our team and is the person, if you want to be talking about her subject, and her title gives it away, writing the high vibe hero's journey, the essential structure to crafting a story that changes the world. A dear friend of mine, Kristalyn A. Vitovich. There she is. Oh my God. It's nice to see you. Big hug across the screen. Tell us about your book, because this is powerful what you're saying just in the title alone. Help unpack that for us. What is your book about?
Well, so the reason I wrote this book is because that question is so paralyzing for a fiction writer, right? But it shouldn't be. Fiction writers, just as much as nonfiction writers, writing is a thing where we reach someone one-on-one, whether they're a world away, whether they're in the same language as us, whether they're sitting on their couch where they feel safe and can feel in their own space, but also seen by the person who wrote this book and seems to understand them on a deep level. And so in that way, nonfiction and also fiction, the high vibe hero's journey helps you heal on a subconscious level in the safety of entertainment.
I love that. And I think your unique voice and experience speaks loud in here, because you've written 2 nonfiction book with us, and you've written multiple fiction books, novels. So tell us a little bit about, if someone is going to pick up your book, what can they expect to gain from your book, and in their own, high vibe hero's journey? What are they going to learn, and how could they apply it to their own craft?
So the craft is the perfect word for it, because there is this balance and even a pressure in the writing community to know the skill and know the craft and do this right and show, don't tell, and all these rules then end up pushing down the talent or that divine spark of inspiration that we receive when we're inspired to write a book. You know you want to write a book, just like the author incubator acknowledges and recognizes in other people. We know we want to write a book. It's in there. It needs to come out. It needs to be birthed. And then rules hold you down. So I blend the rules and help acknowledge them to play the game, but get seen for the talent, the inspired message you have, so that you can do both, walk both worlds, and then become the mentor in some other high vibe hero's journey.
So I love that. And I want to ask this because, people have asked me, what's the difference between fiction and nonfiction? For your particular high vibe hero's journey, if someone's listening right now, how would they know this book is going to help with the ideas they have? Does it make sense? Does it have to be based on reality? Could it be an idea I have? How do they know what you're writing about in terms of the essential structure for crafting story that changes the world? Storytelling can be in both fiction and nonfiction. How do they know your work is going to apply to maybe the little seed of idea they have in their head?
So if the seed of idea that they have in their head is something that is a world that isn't our own, but has enough similarities to really let someone safely and from an objective perspective look at social justice issues, look at moral issues from, a perspective of, rather than our own world, a world of elves and hobbits. That's a high vibe hero's journey. You're addressing something very real, but you're doing it in the safe bubble of someone sitting alone on their couch with no one telling them what to think. And you're just providing a story that allows them to go, I think I recognize this. And they take it from there. They're the hero.
So the high vibe part is, if I'm hearing you correctly, is also kind of an underlying desire to make that impact or kind of influence at a deeper level. Am I hearing that correctly?
The high vibe part is literally you're raising your reader's vibration and your own through the writing of this story. You're raising your hero's vibration. High vibes are joy. When I speak on this at expos and things, funny enough, I end up going to holistic expos, telling holistic healers to write, rather than necessarily going to the writing expos, telling writers to heal. You can do both. And I've walked both worlds. And the journey of writing the High Vibe Heroes journey is elevating the reader's vibration through the process of your story. You are consciously writing your story and programming it energetically to help them heal subconscious trauma. So that's the high vibe part of the journey.
I love that. And the question that comes to mind now is, well, do you have to be a writer to benefit from your work?
So if you have any story to tell, you can be a screenwriter, you can be someone who tells story out loud. You are a high vibe storyteller just because you're sharing something with someone and you're connecting with someone. So if you want to be able to structure that in a way that really walks them from the problem to the dream come true, then you will be able to benefit from this structure.
I love that. That's brilliant. And I think you were right when you were saying this. And certainly before I'd even written books, I got a little paralyzed, and I'm sure other people, with this idea that there has to be these very specific rules that you can't break in order to be successful. What do you say to that and to that person who's doubting whether their idea would even work on the page?
So my first tip is forget the rules. For the first draft, let it come out. As Terry Pratchett said, the first draft is you telling yourself the story. You need to tell yourself the story first. The rules, the tweaking, the fine tuning, as with every art and craft, that can come later. Just let yourself see it first and trust yourself, trust your source, and trust your reader.
I love that. That's brilliant advice. Well, you've written enough books together. So my question to you is, how did we help you? You look like you have it figured out. How did the Author Incubator contribute to birthing the second book?
So the Author Incubator found me when I was in the middle of the problem that I am helping fiction writers solve. I was stuck. So I decided, let me get out of my genre and write nonfiction. The Author Incubator showed me how to give myself permission to tap into my divine inspiration again, to write a book from my heart rather than following rules. And then I remembered everything that I had known before I allowed the rules to guide me a little bit too much. And so I decided it was time to write that down and, help some fiction writers do the same thing.
That's important. And, what about the person who wants to work with a book coach or something, but they just feel that now, a lot of people are saying, let's write a book and create a business or something like that. How about for someone who wants to, in our current setting, a lot of people are at home, how is your book appropriate for and translate to our current situation and living styles under a global pandemic? How does writing work for them, or would it work at all?
Oh, writing is perfect if you're feeling stuck at home, because writing can take you anywhere. You don't even have to stay on Earth if you're going to write a story. You can go wherever you want. So everything you wish you could feel right now, everything you wish you could tell someone, but they're not with you to experience it, that can go into the book.
I love that. That's brilliant. And so you guys heard it here. Do you have your cover again? Let's show it to the viewers.
Guys.
Here you have it, Writing the High Vibe Hero's Journey, the essential structure to crafting a story that changes the world. Crystalline, this has been amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. This has been a beautiful experience. And I appreciate you, Ramses. I appreciate everybody at the Author Incubator. You guys are the best.
I know, forever teammates.
Yes.
Congratulations. All right, now I want to introduce you to the couple audiobook members. This is going to be something a little bit different because our authors that you're going to hear next not only wrote a book, completed a manuscript, put out their ebook, but now they also got their book as an audiobook format for those of you who are auditory learners and listeners. So I do want to introduce you to some audiobook launchers here. And the first one, the author of Physician Care for Thyself, A Doctor's Journey Out of the Darkness of Depression and Burnout, Dr. Jessica Way. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ramses. So great to be here.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to dive into this because you've done the ebook, but now you launched this book. How and what is your book about? What is A Doctor's Journey Out of the Darkness of Depression and Burnout mean? What is he or he or she experiencing right now?
So my general story is that I practiced as a conventional OBGYN for many, many years. And I loved my job. I really loved my job. And it was making me sick. I was becoming more depressed and burned out. It's not an uncommon story for physicians and other healthcare workers. And interestingly enough, right now, I wrote this book before the onset of the pandemic, and now this is actually even more of a crisis than ever before. So my book is about my journey in terms of tuning into myself and coming back to myself to slow down, because in becoming a physician, it is a pretty intense journey, right? You go to college, you go to medical school, you go through this thing called residency, and then you become a doctor and you're in charge of people's lives, saving people's lives on the front line sometimes, which was true for me as an OBGYN, and then your day-to-day office life. And it's a lot of responsibility. And for me, I was also a single mom. So all these responsibilities for all these people outside of myself, and I literally had kind of left myself behind, and I was operating in survival mode pretty much 100% of my existence.
And let's talk about that. What does burnout actually look like? How does it show up in someone's world, right? Because we'll hear that word thrown around like they're burnout, but like, how does it show up in a tangible, maybe a way we can speak in plain language? What actual things are burnout? What constitutes burnout?
Well, I think it first begins kind of emotionally and mentally. You begin to kind of have less bandwidth for things in your life. And for me, because I always had created this habit of putting the needs of other people ahead of my own, I was able to pretty much maintain my bandwidth at work for a long, long time, but at home, a little bit less so. Still with young children, of course, they're children, you need to maintain yourself. So the kind of shrinking ability to kind of deal with your world, right? Being kind of on a short fuse. And eventually I realized that was happening also at work with patients asking me questions. I have my hand on the door, like ready to leave, and just like, oh, I can't handle anything else. And so it begins with that, but then it starts to manifest in your body. And for some people, that's physical symptoms, right? Like gastrointestinal digestive problems. They may even manifest things like cancer. For me, it was my mental health. I became more and more depressed, and the more I pushed myself harder and harder. So it's really exhaustion and fatigue, but I think the mental part starts first, kind of just having less and less ability to deal with all the demands that are flying around.
Right, absolutely. And I love that you put it in those terms because, sometimes because of the pressure, I could imagine, and you tell me more about this, I could imagine that a physician might not even want to admit that they're burnt out, right? Because they're at the apex. Everything they wanted, they got. So why admit that I sort of don't like it?
Funny you say that. So, I think for most people who opt to go to medical school and become a physician, we're very task oriented, right? And very checklist oriented. And I really believed that if I, went to medical school, became a doctor, got married, had children, the white picket fence, the whole 9 yards, that I would be happy, right? And there's so much time, energy, and money that goes into training to become a physician. So you get there, and there are parts of it you really, really love, and there are parts of it you really, really hate. And it becomes hard to disengage because you have invested this time and energy. And really you have this stature, right? You have this identity formed around all of this training and practice. And so It can be hard to admit that you're having a hard time. It can be hard because you kind of, you need to appear as an authority, right? You need to appear that you have it all together. And so part of one of the big purposes of my writing my book and telling my story was to say, hey, you know what? There are a lot of us who are actually really struggling and in a lot of pain. And I'm going to step out to have the courage to share my story, because I think it's important for us to share our stories and to come together as a community to support each other.
I love that. I love that you're speaking to the physician. You're not the first I've heard even saying this. I listen I'm a podcast listener, and I hear time and time again, the physician comes in and they're like, oh my God, I was ashamed to say I was burnt out. I was ashamed to say that I was sort of unhappy, at least with maybe part of it they loved, like you said, but there was like a lot that almost felt like it was draining them. It was affecting their performance. I've heard of the lash out. They're like, I was snappy with a patient and it made me realize what is going on. So I love that you're speaking to this physician. It's beautiful work. Now, you were busy being a rock star physician and also now running a practice, and you wrote a book, and then you got it on ebook. Now it's on audiobook. Tell us about the journey and how we, or the author incubator, facilitated you birthing this message for the physician.
It's quite an unbelievable and kind of really unimaginable path. You don't know about it until you engage. And I think that's listening to everyone being interviewed. I can even see in people I've seen before how different everybody appears, right? So there's a transformation that happens through the process of writing the book, and just so well supported along the way. I mean, this method that's taught, it works. I mean, I'm in the process of writing my second book, and I wrote the first draft in 11 days. And my friends were like, you wrote a book in 11 days? I said, yeah, I wrote a book in 11 days. And it works. It really, really works. And it's magical. I'm like, oh, what's going on? I'm writing a second book within a year. What is this? What is this life I'm living? And it is the life I'm living.
I love seeing you go through this. And I love that you're getting it out as an audiobook. Now it speaks specifically to that busy physician who has a moment to throw in an audiobook on the way to the hospital, right? Or relaxing your voice in an on-call room. So congratulations, Dr. Jessica Way. Look, if you are a physician and you are kind of struggling with that darkness and depression, maybe the burnout, there you have it. She's holding up her cover. It's the author of Physician, Care for Thyself, A Doctor's Journey Out of the Darkness of Depression and Burnout. Congratulations, Dr. Way.
Oh, my Francis.
Amazing. Now we are going to go to our final audiobook launcher. We want to bring her on. Let's make sure she's here. I want you to meet the author of The Happy Healthy Revolution, the Working Parents Guide to Achieving Wellness as a Family Unit. Teresa Wee, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, Ramsey. Yes, I'm so happy to be here.
Today, The Happy Healthy Revolution. Let's jump in. The Working Parents Guide to Achieving Wellness as a Family Unit. Well, there's a lot there to unpack in your title, The Family Unit. We want to talk about what is the healthy revolution. Let's talk about what you mean.
You know, there's currently a pediatric obesity crisis in the world. We're seeing the first generation of children being more unhealthy than their parents. You know, right now, the World Health Organization says that obesity is the #1 health issue. We're seeing chronic disease like diabetes, heart disease in children, in the young teens. And my passion has been to help families, because when the children are obese, the adults are obese. And if we just treat the child, it never works. So over the years, what I have found in my private practice, I've been in practice for 37 years now. I found that the secret was working together as a family. And when you work together as a family unit, the success is there. And not only do the kids get healthier, but the parents and grandparents become healthier.
It's so true. I've actually read correlative studies in mice where the obese mice tends to have obese offspring. And so it's so amazing to hear you say this, because it's so true that this is actually, it's so observable, measurable now that it's happening. So if someone is listening to this recording, how would they know that your book would apply to helping them?
You know, I think especially in this COVID pandemic, for the past 6 to 8 months, I've seen, I call it pandemic pounds. Pandemic pounds. And I've also seen anxiety, stress, and families are really becoming very isolated. They're not talking to one another. So everyone is becoming unhealthy, getting more stressed out. So I think my book, which was written before this COVID, it really is even more applicable at this time.
Absolutely. I love that. You know, what can they gain? So what problems do they encounter if they don't address their healthy eating habits in this situation? What ends up being an issue, especially in these times, if they don't take action on saying, addressing some of these things in perhaps easy, simple ways? What could they look at as kind of long-term situation?
Well, in my book, so I myself, my husband was a physician, and we raised 4 children. And, you know, I worked full-time 6 days a week. And just like what Dr. Jessica Way said, I experienced at 40 years of age an extreme depression. I didn't even know I was depressed for over a year. I couldn't sleep. I lost 30 pounds. And finally, I self-diagnosed myself and saw a psychiatrist. So in my book, I talk about that. And then my second depression was when my husband, at 55 years of age, suddenly and unexpectedly died. And I had to recover from that to really redefine myself, what the purpose of my life was. And I realized, thanks with the Author Incubator, that I needed to show other people, you know, the information I gained after raising 4 children, working outside the home, and working with other families. And I think I found a successful formula. So in my book, I have step-by-step, families can start. And it's very small changes, but they amount to extremely big rewards.
That's amazing. And that's great. That I love that your title captures that, the Happy Healthy Revolution. Now, I do want to ask you, how did the Author Incubator help you with this? Because you wrote a manuscript, you got an ebook launch, you also are now in the audiobook. How's this journey been with you?
It's been amazing, because with the Author Incubator, I had everything in my head, but as I went step by step, you know, the Author Incubator helped me to organize my thoughts. So I had it in me. All it had to do was come out. I also want to say that I actually read my audiobook.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
It was an amazing experience.
Wow.
And it went nice and smooth, and it was so great to hear I really felt like, since I wrote it, I need to, you know, read it. And as I was reading it, I said, oh my goodness, this book is really great.
When that happens, it's great. So I'm so happy that the team was a part of your journey, but it is so important, the kind of work you're doing, the Happy Healthy Revolution. Do you have the canvas for us to see of your book title? We'd love to see. There you go.
And I'm writing my second book.
All right.
I've written a daily blog since March.
Wow.
it's about COVID, and with each blog, I have a little health tip or personal story that I share with everyone. So that's going to be my second book, and hopefully this will help people get through these really hard times.
I love that. Well, there you have it, folks. The author of The Happy Healthy Revolution, the Working Parent's Guide to Achieve Wellness as a Family Unit. Congratulations, Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramsey. Thank you, Author Incubator.
Well, we have just met more and more brilliant authors. Like I said, this is the first month we've had this many launchers all at once. And I do want to hand you all over back to Dr. Angela Lauria, because she has a few final words. But notice how all of these folks started off with simple messages just like you, and they went from concept to done, and they are all making an impact with their message. So back to you, Dr. Angela Lauria.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed all of those interviews. Ramses, incredible job. Such great authors. Our biggest launch ever. It needed 2 hosts. It's the first time we've ever had 2 hosts. I'm glad that you joined us to celebrate these authors as they get their message out into the world. At the beginning, I made a deal with you. And that was for you to get the books that resonated with you, each and every one of them. Some of them are free. The audiobooks we ask you to invest in, but we know it will be worth your while. And we also, I asked you to share these books. So my hope is that by now you have got at least 1 book and you have shared at least 1 book. If not, there will be a blog post on our website where you will be able to select 1 book to share and at least 1 book to download. I hope you've been inspired by these authors and their journeys. I want you to know that at the Author Incubator, we're not looking for people to come to us already as the best writers. We're not looking for people with a huge social media following. What we're looking for is what you saw today from these authors, people on a mission to change lives, to change businesses, relationships, bodies, people who are not willing to let anything stop them from making the difference they were born to make. So maybe you have a hunch we would be friends. And if you do, I would love to hear from you. If you're ready to take advantage of this moment to reach out to transform yourself and your readers like you have seen with these authors, go to theauthorincubator.com/apply or click the link you see on this page to get started. I am always ready to meet my next soulmate clients. The mission that we have at the Author Incubator is to make a difference. It's not just to write good books. That's table stakes. It's to actually change the world. And we do that together. You have been a part of that. One of these books may change your life or the life of somebody you shared it with forever. So thank you for being with us here today. That is all we've got for you, but I know it was enough because you have met a lot of authors today. Thank you for being a part of our journey at the Author Incubator, where we are changing the world. One book.
Book
At a time.
Yeah.